that?
That's a different flag, where's the eagle?
I think they borrowed the other flag. The other
Might be in the main hall.
It's like,
All right, so anyone have a potential conflict of interest to declare? Kyle?
None.
Sue?
none.
Mike, any conflict of interest?
I don't believe so, no.
And I am no. And we'll check with Catherine when she arrives. We are still expecting her, but she is running late. Skylar, do we have any,
No correspondence.
no correspondence and any public comment that we know of?
I don't see anybody unless Ms. Jocelyn or Mr. Darren would like to offer.
Well, I'll have my time soon.
I don't have anybody that signed in, and I may check the waiting room and make sure, but
We can't see you anyway, so the lights will fix it more.
we have Brandon Dole logging in, but I don't think he is offering public comment. He's here to talk about some of the agenda items under old business.
Okay. So then I think we have our recognition of our employee of the month, and it's JoJo.
Hi.
Hi, JoJo. I met JoJo because we had Foster Club's teen conference here.
We did.
Yeah,
It
so
was
I
a
got
really good turnout.
Yeah, we got to meet you. So, okay. So Jocelyn JoJo Rodriguez is the November Employee of the Month. JoJo is one of our patrons relations staff, and she handles reservations at the Bob Chisholm Community Center. She also helps with the Seaside Farmers Market, youth programs, and special events like our Fall Fun Fest. JoJo put her heart and soul into the Latinx Heritage Celebration, an event we hosted in partnership with, oh, and I'm not going to say this right, JoJo, so apologies, Consejo Hispano.
Yes.
Said Skylar Archibald, Executive Director of Sunset Empire Park and Recreation District. She worked hard obtaining donations from local businesses and was instrumental to the organization of this event, which included food from local restaurants, traditional music, and dance performances, a vaccine clinic, and a resource fair. Thanks for going above and beyond, JoJo. Congratulations. Oh, do you want to add anything else?
I would add, I mean, welcome. I would add that you just such a positive presence at the front desk to greet patrons and handle, you know, the little intricacies and you know, issues that patrons may have. And I've watched you and I've appreciated you being there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's a gift, certificate to Yellow Curry, I think.
Yeah. Well, thank you for letting me work here and letting me do fun things. So continues to let me do fun things for Parks and Rec. So,
Yes.
yeah.
And also, great job on the Latinx Festival. That was really awesome.
Thank you. Hopefully, you guys let us do it again next year.
I'm all for it. I think we love that that happened, and we're all very supportive, and I
Oh,
think
you bet.
making sure that we're serving all members of our community is just such an important piece in bringing more equity through Parks and Recreation. So
And
that's super
I will
important.
talk to you about Bert and Hispanic.
Thank you, JoJo. You don't have to stay for the rest of the
Okay.
boring meeting.
Well,
You'll feel better. Have a great Thanksgiving.
You're welcome.
I will see you guys tomorrow.
So
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye, JoJo.
we should probably know for the record that I'm turning leadership of the meeting over to Catherine.
Thank you.
Yeah, you have a conflict of interest?
I do not have a conflict of interest. I apologize for my tardiness, family emergency. That I was.
I have a question, please.
Yep.
Go ahead, Mike.
I should have mentioned this before the meeting, but can you improve the audio output on this Zoom meeting? Since there's no microphone, I can't hear the discussions among the board very clearly.
We will work on that. And by we, I mean Darren.
Is there a way, Darren, is the mic just coming through the TV?
No, it's, should be hooked in. It's tiny. Just make sure that we are connected up to the Polycom.
Mike, we'll work on that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Man, you made progress in just a few minutes. I should just let you run it from
We
now
don't
on.
have an agenda.
Introduction to SEPRD, HR, and Admin Coordinator, Haley Webeldine. Hi.
Hi, I'm Haley.
Hi, Haley.
Hi, Haley. Welcome aboard.
Yes.
Where is your office in the regular?
Okay. Yeah, so, Haley, one sec, we, really feel fortunate to have Haley. She's, been in her role with us for just a little over a week, so we're throwing a lot at her. But she, came to us with some really awesome career experiences and, a great energy, and we think, there's gonna be great things in store for the district and for Haley, so happy to have her. Her office is in the west wing of the youth center, where Tina used to work, so she's filling, the role that Tina left when she moved to California. And yeah, Haley, feel free to share other information with the board and introduce yourself if you want to say anything.
Okay, so I'm Haley. We just moved here from Connecticut a few months ago, so I'm still kind of learning the area. We're super excited to kind of get to know everybody and get to know more of Seaside, just the community. I have a 2-year-old daughter who's just crazy all the time, and that's about it.
Well, welcome. We're super glad you're on board.
What brought you from Connecticut?
My boyfriend at the time was in the Coast Guard, so we moved from Connecticut to here, but I originally grew up in Southern California.
Okay. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Haley. You can hang around for as long as you'd like, or feel free to log off if you need to go, and best health to your daughter.
Thank you.
Yep.
You guys have a great night.
You too.
Bye-bye, welcome.
Approval of board meeting minutes, October 25th, and the board workshop on October 20th. Has everybody had a chance to review those? Any questions? I'm gonna use you.
I did, I talked to Skylar about
Okay.
making sure your name is included
I'm
as
gonna
present.
add
Oh,
under present
did I-
for the board meeting
How did I
minutes.
miss that?
Well, it said that you were here, you called the meeting to order, but under present I didn't list you, so that's just,
Okay.
I mean,
and you led the Pledge of Allegiance, but,
Yeah.
anyways, I'll
I was-
rectify that. for
I was
the
here.
Official
I
record.
even read it very thoroughly. I just assumed that
I know,
Not
I was
important.
like, wow, how did I miss that?
I was here too.
I just had one comment on my quote
Wasn't I here?
on the board comment of the workshop minutes.
No, you were
Yeah.
here. Well, no, wait.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Mike.
you were here,
I
Kyle.
was here.
You were
too.
here, that was your first meeting,
Yeah.
right?
Kyle, we
One
gotta add,
second. So, yes, I did include Kyle, but under attendance, I just usually put the board members and staff that were present, and Kyle got sworn in shortly after the meeting began, so his swearing in is reflected right under there. But in terms of attendance, I usually just list the board members, and at the beginning of the meeting, Kyle wasn't a board member.
Okay.
Fair enough.
That's why I didn't list, but I can change it if you want. Go ahead, Mike.
It's fine.
we're talking about the 25th.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was his first
But
meeting.
the minutes reflect that I was here, so.
Yeah.
it's fine.
Okay, because I saw on the 20th,
Mike, you have something?
I had a comment on the workshop minutes. We're apparently not there yet.
You can be. Yeah. So there's more.
Oh, I did read these. On the workshop, the time should be 5:20.
5:21 it was when we started.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys, you're spot on, this is why I send them
Well,
out. Send them
but
out
I mean,
early.
I did, I read them earlier, I
All right.
swear.
I'm the one that made the
I didn't
mistake.
see it.
It's just kind of funny, that.
And then,
I forgot the
out of
one.
curiosity, like, I never really paid too much attention to titles, but I do see on the meeting minutes, our titles are reflected, but on the workshop, they're not.
Yes. You're right. Sue Coddington, Secretary, Celeste Wagner, Vice
All right, Mike, what was your comment?
Well, I made a comment about, the success of the recent Latinx celebration night. And I think my comment included my regret for not being able to be there, but I was very happy that it was successful.
Okay. Anything else?
No, nothing else to my end.
Do you need a motion, Madam Chair?
Well, and now, I did leave early, so why was the meeting adjourned by Celeste?
Yeah, see, I read that and I went, did you wind up not being here?
No, good question.
No, I was here.
Yeah, that's probably just a,
Okay.
I think it's just,
sorry.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe I should send these out a couple more times.
I read it.
It's all right.
This is the one where you asked us to look and it's like, oh, I am so sorry.
It's all right. It's my mistake.
Funny.
We work as a team and I didn't do my part, so. But those are all, I'm glad they're all just kind of cosmetic.
Yeah, they're
changes
small
instead of,
small changes, yeah.
Significant.
Cosmetic.
I'll move the October 25th minutes of corrections.
Okay, do we have a second?
Well, I thought we were looking at both.
Well, one at a time.
Okay.
Motion one.
So I will second.
All in favor, signify aye, opposed nay. Kyle?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Celeste?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Okay. Do we have a motion for the workshop minutes?
I motion that we accept the workshop minutes for October 20th with the minor correction.
Perfect. Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Celeste. All in favor, signify aye, opposed nay. Kyle?
I'm going to abstain. Because
Okay, as you weren't there. Perfect.
Well,
Sue?
I was there, but I wasn't
Yeah.
there.
Right. Sue?
Aye.
Celeste?
I'll abstain.
Mike?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, moving on. Financials. Does everybody have a chance to review the financials? Which I did do, but maybe we'll find out. Kind of theme of the night.
Are you ready for questions?
Feel free.
I'm interested in the long term, I guess. So, do you anticipate that our revenues are going to catch up?
I do.
As the tax revenues come in?
Yes. Yeah, we're, already got 2 sizable tax, contributions over the last week or 2 in November. So typically about 1st of November is when they kind of start picking up. But I think if you isolate just the individual program areas, things are looking fairly good, in terms of revenues from where we expect it to be with the bulk of our program budget. I know aquatics is a tiny bit behind, but I think that will catch up soon, especially after shutdown and some of the other challenges that we've had with staffing. But community center, the special events and youth center budgets are all doing well, I think.
Well, and we weren't able to hold, swim lessons.
Yeah.
The last month because of staff, so that starts in January again.
Feeling
on my calendar.
fairly confident right now. I think the next month or so, yeah.
Okay.
But I think that does bring up a good question, and one of the things that we don't normally look at as a board, and I'm wondering if this is an oversight, is, you know, this gives us a profit loss, but it doesn't give us an idea of cash flow. And how does that look currently? I mean, is that, I know that we've had reserves, that provided us some cushion, as far as I understand, but I'm curious about how that's monitored.
Sure.
And whether or not that should be something that we're looking at, some sort of balance sheet.
Yeah, so you remember kind of the timing of the fiscal year is such that we try to make sure we have enough in the kitty to get through this period of time. And we're monitoring that. Chris and Darren, I would assume, have conversations regularly about that, and I know Chris and I do as well. And we really try hard to refrain from making significant purchases that aren't absolutely necessary until at least this point in the fiscal year. The expenses that you'll see, there are some significant ones, but a lot of them are essential things that maintenance needed, or they're the result of some of those larger grants that we got to purchase, like outfit the SRC classroom for infant and toddler care. So I think cash flow is fine, and now that we have more contributions coming in from our annual taxes, I think we'll be in good shape. Good question. And we could add something. We used to have, I feel like, before we went to this format and this software, we had kind of a cash flow statement. I don't remember how it was laid out, but we could go back and look at the records if that's something that we're interested in.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what it looked like.
Yeah.
But we did come in with a higher carryover from last year as, compared to what we had budgeted for. So I think, we budgeted, somewhere around 900,000 as far as carryover. I think we came in closer to 1.4. So we're pretty substantially higher, so.
Yeah, it might make sense just for a board to make sure it's meeting its fiduciary oversight duty to have a somewhat regular, and I would imagine the software can produce like a balance sheet of some sort or something that shows us our current cash situation.
Yeah.
I think that would make sense.
So are those the kind of questions I wind up coming in and asking you ahead of time? Because like I had like, you know, I had like a half hour of his time.
Sure. So those are great questions, and you, as an elected official, you're encouraged to either bring them to the meeting like this, or to come and work them out beforehand. That's up to you. I encourage you to get some of those questions answered beforehand, because I think it can make our meetings more efficient, but there's also some transparency and visibility that I think the board wants to ensure the public that they're performing their fiduciary duties, right? And so you get to manage that. I'm not going to tell you how to do that part of your elected official's job, but we're here to respond and to do our best. When we're in the meeting, sometimes Darren might know if he's here, I might know, Chris might know if he's here, but we'll probably be able to get you better answers if we're not in the public meeting, just because it's hard to get things to come to your mind when you're on the spot without some of your resources.
Well, that's why I asked ahead of time.
Sure, but yeah, you get to do as you like. So
the taxes represent, and I'm just
sure.
napkin cat math here, but roughly 2/3 of the
typically
of the revenue.
Yeah. And we had
if you think you know we're going to be fine on the tax side, then you can adjust your expenses on the other side to stay within your budget. Right?
Yeah.
Did when the tax statement came in from the county, did we project pretty close to what our taxes are going to be?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we project, I think we got a statement from them, I want to say in the middle of budget season, and so that's kind of what we base our projection off of, minus the collection rate.
Right.
Right, and so we're reducing a little bit. Now, I honestly think there's a good chance that it might be higher than what they told us, just because I think there's so much development in the district boundaries right now.
Well, in October, they should have sent a certificate that said, you know, this is how much you're going to receive this year. This is how much we're taxing on your behalf.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. If they did, they do send something like that in the spring. And we got something like that in the spring. And we could maybe request it, but.
Well, I just want to make sure we're kind of on track with where we anticipate.
Great question, yeah.
So, and I have one more question on the Broadway Field Fund. We've got about a third of a staff member assigned there, but no other roll-ups assigned. So that's different from how the other ones were arranged?
No other roll-ups, sorry.
So there's no, there's a third of a person, but there's no wages or taxes or benefits or anything assigned to that 40% or 37%.
Isn't that right below, sorry, it says, my line says PRF staffing, and then right below that it says PR taxes and benefits?
No,
I'm on the personnel.
Oh, sorry, I was looking at the general.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Very clear.
And if this was maybe this is hand-built, and it's
I think it is
cut and paste,
hand-built, yeah.
a cut and paste problem
okay.
at embedding.
Yeah. Okay. So that's something, yeah, it's probably, it does exist, Kyle. If you look on the first page, you'll see that there's a line for it, but there hasn't been any expenditures off of that, which is probably, to be honest, it's probably not a miscalculation, but it's probably a result of the staff person that we have performing those services. They're not clocking in and clocking out.
They're not coding it.
Yeah, and it's not being coded, probably, but we'll have to adjust it down the road, because we do want to make sure we're reflecting.
Well, if we're not putting a person in that role, then
We are, yeah.
there's money somewhere
yeah.
else to.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think, so one thing I want to note is this is new for us, to be able to have this roll-up of staff time, which was a request from Erica last year, I believe.
Yep.
And so I just want to acknowledge that and thank the staff for following through and providing that for us. I think it's good for us to be able to see,
Useful, yeah.
yeah, how many FTEs we have and what our wages are running.
Sure.
I did have a question around on the SRC staffing. It says 4.2. Well, it says SRC funds, and I'm not sure if that's,
Yeah, it exists as its own fund.
okay.
Yeah.
And so that's staffing at the SRC?
Yes.
4.2?
So, yeah, think of it like this. Yeah, you think about that building, and wow, there's a lot of staff over there in youth programs, but they're actually under Fund 100, which is the general fund under youth programs.
Yep.
So, when we look at the number of staff over at the SRC, that is specifically our front desk staff people, at least at this point. So, yeah. So we have a number of people working over in that building. You've got Elizabeth and Chris, and Aaron and all the youth program staff, but they work under the general fund, under Fund 100, and youth programs or administrative.
Can I just ask the nomenclature, what was it, something about roll-up, what's that?
Well, you have your wages, and then everything tacked onto those wages are roll-ups, benefits of Medicare, Social Security, health
All your
insurance.
payroll taxes.
Everything that increases in cost when the wage goes up.
Okay.
So
That's called a roll-up.
Well, that's just a nickname that I call it, so.
But everybody else knows it, so I figured you all know the nickname.
Yeah, when you total a bunch of stuff, I call it, it's rolled up. Everything rolls up into a big number. Yeah, exactly.
So, Skylar, just a point of clarification. So this person, maybe I've been reading this wrong, the personnel services breakdown, is that looking backward or looking forward?
It's year-to-date up to the end of October.
So it's looking backwards.
It's supposed to kind of be running on the same schedule as like the revenue and expense report.
Gotcha. So the FTEs that are listed in here, those are drawn from the budget.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are imprinted in the budget, and then you code the costs.
Oh,
to
yeah,
the FTEs.
yeah.
Gotcha, okay.
And then I was also curious, under administration, who is included in administration? Part of the reason I wonder this sometimes, because I think sometimes supervisors are supervising programs areas and get counted in administrative, and I just think sometimes it's nice to make sure that we have so many staff that are doing usually higher programmatic staffing and lower administrative.
Right.
Staffing is a plus to funding. I don't know if that is so important to hear with us and with,
Right.
so I don't know what our ratio is. Yep.
It's in the way it's categorized. If you look at like the budget, which you guys don't have because this sheet looks different, but the budget that was approved in June. So under administration, the personnel services includes my position, executive director, includes 0.85 of the director of operations, which is Darren, full inclusion of the finance manager, half-time inclusion of the marketing manager, which is Melissa. She's half marketing, half special events, and then administrative personnel services, which is 1.4 FTE.
And it would also include,
Haley?
Yeah, she's not on here, but is that under administrative personnel services, Darren?
should be.
Should be.
No, interestingly enough, when we budgeted, we went through the budget process. Did we have our HR person on at that time?
We did, yeah, Tina was here,
Yeah, that's right, Tina was,
So-
January. So,
maybe that, we just didn't relabel it the right way, but yeah, so.
Yeah,
That was
that sounds about right.
Can you ballpark what we received so far in, property taxes?
Yeah, let's see here, so I know we got a huge one either today or yesterday that was above $250,000, so I would say probably we're right around, maybe 400,000,
Awesome. Thank
yeah,
you.
I was guessing.
Which puts us about a third of the way through. Mhm.
Any other questions on the financial statement?
I just had a couple of questions on the check registry.
Go ahead, Mike.
This is just some clarification on some vendors, primarily, I think. Interesting name, Wichita vendor number 1157.
You did a good
I
job.
kind of came to think that might have been connected with the Latinx festival.
Yes, those were the dancing group that we had come, I think they were out of, Hillsborough area. Yeah, that was them, and Mike, you did a good job with that name, that's a hard one, I'm not even gonna try.
Pronounce that again.
Yeah, I didn't realize I missed all those dancers too. I was curious about vendor 1140 down the list, CPM Systems. What do they do for us?
Yes, so that's the company that we're contracting with to clean the SRC classrooms. You'll remember from a few months ago, we approved a contract to have to contract out that cleaning service for our classrooms because we were having such a difficult time filling positions with part-time staff, so.
Okay, yeah, I recall that.
Yep.
Thanks.
Yep.
And the rest, I know Don Frank Photography, it looks like he did a sizable amount of work for us. Are those using the drones?
No, so, I think I shared this with the board via email, but Don came into the SRC shortly after we acquired the building, and he was doing a project at the time about the effects of the pandemic and basically vacant spaces, and he shot photography at the SRC as well as some of the old high school, the old Gearhart Elementary, and then he showed that art at a gallery in Astoria down the road, and some really nice art. He approached us and we agreed to buy the art that didn't sell, the printed art, and there's about 7 pieces that didn't sell that I have in my office. I'm not exactly quite sure what to do with them, and then about over 1,000 digital prints that he provided to us. And I think, kind of thought about the decision for a long time, but I felt like it would be really valuable down the road to have it archived by a professional photographer, the condition of the building when we took ownership, and kind of sort of tracking the growth that we're going to have looking back at the building as it was when we got it, and where we're at now, where we're going to be with the building in a few years. So that's the fee that Don and I agreed on for that service.
That's a great idea.
Well, thank you. Sometimes we see these checks and we don't connect to the original conversation. Is that check we wrote to the Oregon Ethics Commission, is that a sensitive issue or something that's a wrap up on a project?
It's not. It's a yearly, because we're a government entity, we have to pay the Oregon Government Ethics Commission a yearly, basically like a membership fee or just something that we're required to participate in. So nobody's in ethical hot water, but yeah, just our yearly fee to them.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
So Skylar, I see CBM, I see a check for the same amount on both 1026 and 1031. Is that a monthly fee, or are we
It
really
is a
paying
monthly
that?
fee. I'm guessing though that maybe we were
Behind.
behind in the invoicing, or
Okay,
usually, I mean, Chris, our finance manager, cuts checks at least once a week, so I don't think this was on us, but sometimes we don't get invoices, you know, in anything but a batch.
yeah, okay.
Were they trying to take a discount?
Maybe. Yeah, there has been a couple of days where we didn't need their service, so I think our rate will be affected, like when we have holidays or things like that.
I have, two questions. One is, check number 84, 684 for Kiwi glass.
Yes.
It seems like a lot of glass.
It is, yeah. So, they, performed 2 projects for us, over the last probably 3 or 4 months. One was at the SRC. We had a classroom, a southern-facing classroom that was getting water damage through an exterior door. So we replaced the door and replaced the kind of the frame around the door. Yeah. And then the other project that they did was replacing the Sunset Pool lobby windows, and they completed that work. And those windows are functioning much better than the old ones, keeping the lobby better temperature regulated and look sharp. So this is the last of our payment for their work. I think this is part 2 of 2 parts.
And so we're done, we're no more Kiwi glass deals?
I believe so. Yeah.
And then, SDIS, that's your insurance, right?
Correct.
Special Districts Insurance. And is that paid annually or quarterly or?
Quarterly, I believe. Yep. Correct.
Quarterly, so 50-some grand.
Actually, you'll see SDIS, on a monthly basis, because that is our insurance for our full-time staff. So the portion that, we pay and whatever's withheld from their checks for that.
For what kind of insurance?
Like workers' comp?
No, for,
Health insurance?
health insurance.
Oh, health insurance.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So you
So
will see
SDIS
SDIS.
provides the health insurance?
Yeah.
They contract
But they're the broker.
out, but yeah, they're the broker.
Okay. Who's our agent, our broker?
Knutson is our, not our health insurance, but they're like our property casualty loss
They're the
insurance
one that
provider locally.
finds insurance for us?
Yep.
Yeah, so you will see annual payments to SDIS for that, for property insurance, and then you'll see monthly for SDIS for the
Health insurance, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And there is a payment farther on down the page
For
for,
special districts association. Yeah.
but it's used as a different name.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's SDAO, and that I believe is.
Oh, as
our
opposed to
annual- our-
SDIS,
yeah.
I got
I think
you.
those are our annual dues for,
Yeah.
annual membership dues.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, concerns?
The comment that I made was, it would be really nice if Chris or somebody, or Darren could just make a list of, like, air gas is this, and we have this legend, that isn't part of the regular budget, or regular packet. And so I can say, oh yeah, because I'm sure I know what air gas is for. And I've asked different questions over time, but that way, we know what the SDI, yes is, and, instead of asking now.
Okay. That's something I think we can, yeah.
And then, on the last page, the check summary.
Mhm.
So what am I looking at here? So the payable count is the number of invoices that came in, and the payment count was the number that we paid?
Correct.
Okay.
And then that payment amount, Chris clarified after the meeting last month, because I think you asked the same question. That's the, outgoing funds from this month.
So there should be 66 checks on this page then?
I suppose that's right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, too small print for the accountant this.
Yeah.
round.
Okay.
Make a motion that we accept the, October, financials.
Yes, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Kyle. All in favor, signify aye. Opposed, nay. Kyle?
Aye.
Sue?
Hi.
Celeste?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Darren Gooch.
Well, hello.
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 It's been a while, you guys.
Give me just a sec here, folks.
a lot of questions.
Me? Oh, yeah, I do.
Like my wife's computer. You only need a cursor that's about this big.
There we go. Oh, wait. Sorry, we were at the end. Now we want to be at the beginning. Okay.
All right.
Advance, unless
I think I can advance. Great, so.
I'll move over here so we can get a bird's eye view.
Well, it seems like I did this presentation just not too long ago, but I thought about it, I think it was back in January, actually, since I did my last presentation. So, some of you may remember some of this. Kyle, this is going to be all new stuff for you. So, welcome to the board. It's going to be great. So yeah, I'm the Director of Operations, position that I moved into in April of 2021. It's been, I think, a really great division of duties in our district, the way that you guys have chosen to divide this up. And so I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about me. Maybe.
You want to press, sorry, somebody's wanting to come in. But you can't.
Okay.
Sorry. I don't know how to do it unless actually, you just go ahead because, Chris isn't gonna.
All right.
Chris from Clash Group, he doesn't
Gotcha.
need to be in right now. You can add him in a second.
Maybe it'll move on. Do I go up, down?
Over space, I don't know.
Okay. Maybe it wants to.
You're an
Well, Darren,
unwritten
he
book.
said you needed a computer to talk about you.
How about we do this?
You just.
There we go. I got this figured out. It worked out. All right. So I'm married to a wonderful middle school teacher, Jennifer Gooch. This is a picture of us outside of Cusco in Peru just last summer. This is our second trip. So this is Sacsay Huaman, a really amazing site with some giant megalithic blocks. Makes a person wonder how they got some of those 200-ton blocks into place. But we were so excited the first time around, we decided to go back again. So this is an updated picture from last year. So.
And Elizabeth wears a really cool hat.
Yes, she does. Yes, she does. Everybody got a hat this year. Hats are for everybody. These are my three wonderful children, Marshall, Mara, and Andrew. This is my grandson, Owen, Mara's son, really sweet little guy. This is my son, Andrew. Mr. Gooch works up at the high school as an IA. This is my youngest, Marshall. He's Air Force Reserve. He's a senior airman. And in Klamath Falls right now, learning how to fly helicopters. He's got his private license and his instrument rating, working on his commercial license now. So, exciting stuff for them. And then my two fur babies, Tormund and Maya. Their favorite place. So every year I like to share a little bit of Bigfoot footage with you. If you guys didn't know, Bigfooting is one of my favorite pastimes. I think I showed you guys the Patterson-Gimlin footage from 1967 last year. We're going to take just about 20 seconds and watch the Freeman footage filmed by Paul Freeman in the Blue Mountains of Oregon. If you guys don't know where that's out near Pendleton, in that area, Ukiah. And so, here we go. This is what we kind of refer to as a blob squatch. It's what happens when you try and take footage of Bigfoot with a Sony Handycam from the early 1990s. This is what you often get. Squirrel. Right? Definitely something there.
Is there any way to share screen with me?
You should already have it shared, Mike.
No, I'm getting your volunteerism and all that stuff, but I'm not seeing the other things about your family, that's all.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, this is a Mac product or an Apple product, and Mike, I really don't know a lot about Apple. I'm sorry. I wish I did.
It is in our packet that Skylar sent to us, the presentation.
Oh, okay.
So Mike, if you look in the packet that Skylar sent, you can at least see the slides. You won't be able to see the video.
He can't see that. That's why.
I'll send you a link to the video later though, Mike. It is really interesting. It's on YouTube. All right. My areas of responsibility, I oversee the finance department, oversee the district marketing, oversee the technology areas of the district. I also directly supervise the patron relations specialists. I oversee Melissa and grant writing, and then also oversee the facility rentals. So a lot going on in my department, in my area. Finance, this past year we completed our first full year with the new Incode 10 finance software. That's been a really exciting change for us. It has been a very beneficial change. Our old software could be, I'll use the term finicky. It was oftentimes really difficult to use. Basically, it was an old legacy software. So finished the implementation of Tyler's ExecuTime timekeeping and scheduling module. We went live in February, and I think as of this month, we worked out almost all of the kinks. I won't go as far as saying 100%. There's still that little 1% piece in there, but we really are enjoying that software. It's made things really much easier for our employees to be able to do the clocking in and clocking out. So we're awaiting right now the final documents for this year's audit. We met with Rick 2 weeks ago via Zoom to kind of go over a couple little outlying items, and I think at that time he said, nope, this is everything I need. This is looking really great, and he said I'll have a draft document to you guys next week. I got an update from him. He's still working on those draft documents, so we should see those early next week. And then shortly after that, we'll have the final documents for you guys, and hopefully Zoom Rick in, and he can kind of go through things with us. So that's really exciting. If you guys remember, we actually finally finished that audit for last year, back in, what is it, May? I think we finally got the document. So having that first full year with Incode 10, it was really a breeze this year. So for the upcoming year, again, we're looking forward to a really smooth budget process. We'll get that kicked off in January. We'll be sitting down with all of the managers like we did. Really liked the process we followed last year. I think the feedback we got from the management team was they really appreciated being looped in the way that they got looped in this last year. So everybody was really excited about that. So, and we are continuing to work on our 110% cost recovery goals. It's a little slower, but still, as we get into that next budget cycle, really we'll be looking at that more as well.
Darren, how do you allocate costs among programs?
Allocate costs?
Your overhead costs, I mean, how do you spread those out amongst your programs in order to recapture 110%?
Yeah, as part of the budget process, and I don't know if you guys recall from last year, as we went through that budget process, there were the cost recovery comparisons at the bottom of the budget document. We worked with a company, and I guess, I should probably talk about this just a little bit more, because this is a little before, you're joining the board, but we went through a process with an outside company that looked at all of those things, taking those overhead costs and allocating them by program, looking at every bit of the revenue that came in for those programs. Some of those other little cost things like where does the front desk staff's time go? How is that allocated to each of the programs? So I'm sure Skylar could probably share that document with you as well. It's really neat, and that kind of gave us some targets for that 110% cost.
No, I don't need to know the details. I just need to know that you guys got a firm handle on what your costs are.
Yeah. We went through an entire year and a half long exercise to really kind of nail those down. So yeah, it's a great process. All right, so marketing this past year, we increased our marketing efforts for district programs and events. Focused marketing efforts towards staff recruitment. We kind of continued that especially since we had an HR person in place. You know, kind of really, this last year, we're struggling because we kind of moved in from that 2021 to 2020 to 22 timeframe. A lot of our departments were really having a hard time getting staff, so we focused some of those marketing efforts towards staff recruitment. We kind of backed off that a little bit now because we've kind of reached where we think a really good staffing level is. Resumed the use of radio advertising. That's something that Melissa focused on. Is we kind of came into that springtime really going out and kind of forging some new relationships with some of our radio folks. Went digital with the program guide so we could maintain flexibility, but the great thing is Melissa's been printing a lot of hard copies of those too. Our front desk staff use those a lot in engaging with especially our new patrons coming in that have questions about programming. So this upcoming year, Melissa and I have some really great kind of goals for ourselves this year. Redesigning our website is one of those. Producing flyers and marketing materials in Spanish, and Jocelyn has really kind of jumped in and said, yeah, I'd love to help with that. I think it's important. We think it's important too. And so you'll probably see in your packet that there are a couple of our more recent flyers are already translated into Spanish. We're also going to be looking at taking a lot of our applications and other forms and documents and trying to get those into Spanish as well. Continuing to develop new marketing avenues to reach hard-to-access populations, and I think you know, having a lot of our materials in Spanish will help with that. I got some feedback from some parents who have their kids in swim lessons. We have a lot of Hispanic parents that had a really hard time registering their kids for programs because the registration system was all in English. So at least a couple of the swim lesson programs we have actually translated into Spanish as well on Rep 1. So technology. Back in January, we hired Isaiah Collins, one of our lifeguards, as a network admin. Isaiah's been absolutely fantastic to work with. He's a real self-starter. I only have to tell him, you know, that we're having an issue in this area. He's right on it. He runs over it and takes care of it. We did deploy a new backup Active Directory server. That's kind of an important element. Active Directory plays a major role in the backbone of our system. So if something ever happens to our primary server, having a backup Active Directory means you don't lose all of your usernames, passwords, all of your group policy objects and things of that sort. So very important to have. We began to add new infrastructure to the SRC, or I should say continue to add new infrastructure to the SRC. Continue to update aging equipment. Skylar recently got a new computer. Yay! So it's one of those that was on our to-do list, and so we're continuing to evaluate the equipment that we have, its age, and its viability. And we also implemented a system hardening checklist. You might remember back in 2020 and 2021, I had Adam Morse on as an intern. Adam went through all of our systems and created that checklist, and we've implemented that, and just trying to reduce that attack surface that might exist in our organization. So this upcoming year, we are getting ready to install 30 new security cameras at the SRC. We finally received those toward the end of July. We had ordered them in January. So, but because of the chip shortage, it took about 7 months for us to receive those cameras. We'll also be replacing some of our older Cat5 cabling with fiber optic trunk lines. Just trying to future-proof our organization, and so that will be one of those exciting projects that will help us in that endeavor. Patient Relations Specialist. Added 3 new staff this year. In January, we added Jocelyn Rodriguez and Hannah Toole. And then several months later, we added Betty Barbick. So you might have seen Betty when you first came in for the meeting. She's helping out over here tonight with the rental. All really super staff, very, very capable. We reassigned the rental responsibilities among PRS staff. It was all kind of on Jennifer's shoulders for a while. I decided to kind of split it up, those duties, and that has really helped smooth the process out. Hannah helps out with the SRC rentals over there. Absolutely fantastic at it. And she's crafted some really great relationships with some of those renters. Jocelyn Rodriguez handles all the Bob Chisholm rentals over here, and Jennifer's primarily handling the Broadway Field rentals and the HFTF rentals. This upcoming year, I want to get back on a schedule to have our weekly department meetings. We sort of had gotten away from that because of everyone's schedule so wildly different. Trying to get everybody together at one time has been really, really difficult. And look for training opportunities for my frontline staff. They've asked about that a number of times. Tina helped me work out some really great videos for staff to do some video trainings. So I may rely on Haley to kind of help with that a little bit too as we move forward.
Are the field rentals or facility rentals included in 110% cost recovery factor? Okay.
Yes, they are. Grant writing this past year, you guys probably had Melissa give you a complete rundown last month with her presentation. So I won't dwell on any of these too much. You're probably pretty familiar with a lot of these numbers already then. Pacific Corp Foundation for the SRC walking track, we've got $2,000. Juan Young Trust had given us $8,000 this year for the chalk art contest, $2,500 from Seaside Tourism and Advisory Committee. For the Fall Fun Fest, Classic Cultural Coalition for the SRC Sound Booth Project. Communicare gave us $3,869 for warming center meals. City of Seaside, City of Deer Heart, and City of Cannon Beach all gave us money for foundation scholarships. Melissa does most of the grant writing. I, however, still do the grants to the cities for the foundation scholarships and also do that presentation. So those are some really good chunks of money we got for foundation scholarships.
Jaron, I actually had a question. I was waiting. So the walking space, is that actually really going to happen?
It is in a fashion. It's going to happen. Obviously, we can't do those big, wonderful things we want to do, like over the gym, kind of walking track. But we have plans. We've got it all laid out to do around the inside of the SRC, and it includes a lot of signage around, both on the floor and signs for the walls that kind of show the distance that you've walked. So if you make this loop and you do this many times, this is how far you've gone.
Do you know when that might happen?
Well, a lot of it's got to coordinate with our occupancy, so it'll kind of have to dovetail with that. So, but we've got designs, we've got plans. We just a matter of when can we get that?
Yeah, I just put that over on our goals, so
Yeah.
you know, it's just look, there's some more money for it.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have one question. Can you go back one slide?
Maybe.
Well, I had heard, the sound booth project. How,
Yes.
I see it there.
That was disappointing not to be able to see a single slide of that deck.
We're not done yet, Mike.
You know how to get that up there.
I mean, the screen is sharing, I don't know.
Okay.
He
All right.
should be able to see whatever we're seeing.
Okay.
But if you want to
I think-
tinker with it.
Okay. So the SRC Sound Booth project? Yes.
I see the platform. My children love playing on it.
The other parts you don't see are actually back at room 10.
Okay.
It's the,
I'm just curious.
it's
how that's going.
yeah, it's a desk. I've got it all torn apart and laying there. I'm waiting on a couple of parts to come in to hook on all the brackets and everything. I need to hook it all together. But it's basically a big desk with a lower desk on it, and I've got all of the mixing boards and everything that needs to go in with that. And Seaside High School was kind enough to donate to us wow, a bevy of, electronic equipment. It was really amazing. 3 Bose amplifiers, another soundboard, I mean, it's fantastic. So we've got the rack out there, we're ready to move forward with that.
And that will have a door with a lock, right? So my children don't think it's a fun place to play.
Yeah, actually, the sound booth is not gonna be in the gym all the time, it's gonna be rolled away into a room. It's designed so that it can slide through the doorways. It's on wheels.
What's the platform then?
The platform up there, they built that so they could change out the lights up above the,
Oh, okay, see, I was thinking that that's where that was going.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope, that is actually so they could put a ladder up and change those light bulbs out in the gym.
Got it, okay, well, it's a great
No.
dance floor.
Yeah, no, you can't, the sound booth you don't see, it's back, is getting built in another room.
Okay.
Behind the stage, there is a rack, a locking, rack system, and that's where our amplifiers are going to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought securing that stuff behind the stage would be, there's a lot of families that play up there.
Exactly, yeah. Anything that we put in there has to be lockable, and be able to keep it away from interested hands.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet.
Mike, can you see it now?
Okay.
Lost Mike.
90,000 from Community Wellness Hub, 3,300 from SEO Safety and Security, and another 5,000 from Pacific Work Foundation in this latest grant cycle for additional sensory pads. The great thing about the sensory pads, they're going to dovetail in with the walking track. So adults, someone may have more adult themes too, so they can kind of play along as well. So it's really exciting.
They're great fun.
Question? Yeah.
So I'm just curious in looking at some of these,
Yep.
whether or not we have a process towards building in staff time on top of hard costs and building in overhead or administrative, like a percentage.
If the grant allows for it.
If the grant allows, okay.
Yeah. Some of these do, the 90,000 from Community Wellness Hub does. It applied to staff time, where like say the 3,300 from SDAO, doesn't. That's just equipment only.
The equipment?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so some do, some don't, it just depends on the grant.
Yeah.
This year, looking at 20,000 from the Niemeyer Foundation, that's through OCF. There's some plans to do some projects out in the main atrium at the SRC. So when you first walk through the door and you look through the glass area, doing something in there with the atrium. And Melissa didn't have all the details for me on this, though she did say that it has something to do with some sensory gardens in there, essentially.
So these are grants that we've applied for but haven't found out yet?
Correct,
or
yeah.
that we've been notified but haven't received?
Correct. We've either the application is in process or it has actually been submitted but have not received notification.
Okay.
And that's the upcoming year, the two here that you see. The $66,000 for the community project funding request for infant toddler care through Suzanne Bonamici's office. So facility rentals this past year, rentals here in this building continue to increase. We're almost back to pre-pandemic levels. You can see they're having a baby shower over here. This is the, I want to say this is the 4th baby shower we've had in the past 2 months. So lots of babies being born. It's fantastic. SRC gymnasiums continue to be the most requested facilities district-wide. Seaside Rotary continues to use the library on a weekly basis. And we also more recently entered into a lease with Seaside School District to use room number 8 for the robotics club. They had contacted us at the beginning of summer that they needed to repurpose a room up there for art and had no place for the robotics club to go. So so we worked with Jeff to find some space at the SRC for them. So. And you guys met Haley Wilding earlier. Haley is one of the robotics club coaches, so kind of neat. TF sees daily usage, and our third-party rentals actually increased in July. I think all of last year we had about 5 third-party rentals total, for all of last year. For this year, we had 2 or 3 right at the beginning of the year, and then in July, since July, we've had about 18 or 19 actually. So it's a nice increase in those third-party rentals. Third-party rental money actually comes directly to us. So.
And Kyle, it's, that's the training facility, right?
No.
Oh, sorry.
First
The
family.
acronym, sorry.
Yeah.
The First Family Training Facility. That's the batting cages behind the pool.
Oh, I got you,
And then
Yeah.
the next acronym is the Mary Blake Playhouse,
Yeah.
which is the little cabin just right across the street here.
Yeah.
I'm really curious about this,
Yeah.
just because about our facility costs. So I was really shocked, just because it's something our organization has to do, is rent facilities in different communities.
Yep.
And we've seen a huge increase in facility costs this
Yeah.
year.
Mhm.
And so I'm curious about how we're monitoring, like what we're charging through facilities. Have we done any kind of scan? And I'm also curious about, like, do we know if it's a loss for us, given staff time and facilities maintenance costs and all this costs that goes into a facility? Like, do we know? Yeah, do we know, like, do we have a way to have analysis around this? Because I have a feeling this could be a big piece of business.
Sure.
And
Sure.
just so that we have a way to have an informed strategy around it.
Absolutely, absolutely. I honestly, from my perspective, I think we do need to do a scan of the current pricing structure. For this particular building, it's governed by a city ordinance, which we pursued an increase, probably about, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago, just right before COVID. We approached the city and said, yeah, we think that the price needs to go up. And so we did that. We have actually increased the staffing cost, the cost of the staffing. So we do an after-hour staffing fee. So here in this building, it went from $15 an hour. We're like, wait a minute, we're way low on that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we bumped that up to $25 an hour, and now that's really right in line with what it costs for probably my most expensive staff person, plus the 18% for payroll costs, exactly. So, but as far as our other facilities, I think it's time we sit down and do another blush at that. A lot of those were put together, right, like let's take the SRC for instance. Those costs were kind of put together with what we had at the time, and I think now is a great time to really review that. Though for anything after hours, it does incorporate, staff time. That the $25 an hour fee does apply to that facility as well. So.
And the Mary Blake Playhouse is free for 4 hours.
Yep. For district residents.
For district. Yeah. So the other thing I'm wondering is, like, how do people even know that this is available? I mean, how do people know it's available? And I'd be curious about if and how this could become part of the marketing strategy, right? And whether or not we have, and including the ability to have, be able to see inside, see the pictures of the facility or video or whatever we can do.
Which we do have on our website. We have a photo gallery. This is how everything looks inside. So yeah, I think the website's been kind of one of our bigger marketing tools, and directing folks to that. Word of mouth has been really amazing. When we had our full program guide, the one we used to publish and mail out to folks, we had a whole complete page on facility rentals and information in there as well. So since we don't do that, we've kind of lost, I think, one avenue of our marketing strategy with that. But
I wonder if maybe doing like a small flyer kind of a thing that we could give to some of the smaller hotels.
Yeah. Or we probably get most of our referrals from the convention center.
Yeah.
They've been really, really fantastic about referring people
They
over
get
to
full,
us.
right? They
Yeah.
don't have,
Or if a request comes in that is, they're like, well, this probably wouldn't be really appropriate for us. However,
Yeah, because it doesn't come up in searches when I'm looking for space, for group space. So that would be one of the other places that we could. And I actually really like the idea. I think you could do a separate printed guide, just the facilities, because you don't have to do it each year, right? It could be evergreen.
A little more evergreen.
Right, so that might be a nice piece. But I think this could be a nice little chunk of business
Love it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it's-
I would like just, as part of, the CERT team, which Kyle is a member as well, how much it is appreciated that the space is available here for us to meet monthly.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, just a very nice positive.
But it's actually a city of Seaside CERT team, right? So we should capture those costs, whatever they are. Capture those costs and know that next time we negotiate with the city of Seaside, we know that we donated this much.
I agree,
Yeah.
in kind.
Yeah.
This much in kind,
Yes.
meeting space.
And part of
for city staff.
the staffing issue is because I'm on the board, I'm the one closing up.
Yeah.
So you don't have to have a staff member stay.
Right, so they don't stay.
I think you would find that comparing, like, charging out-of-district fees could be substantially higher. So this could be seen as an industry perk,
Yeah.
which helps justify, you know, what we charge our tax base.
Right.
And that could be compelling for the communities that have not joined our district yet.
Right, and for all of our other facilities, yeah, we do have a non-resident, you know, rate
Yeah.
is different. We also have differentiated between, commercial use and non-commercial, you know, for-profit, not for-profit, use as well. So, that was a model we took from this building.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, and I'm still on the cost recovery piece, and it's awesome. I think it's a really good goal to say that, you know, what you're gonna collect. My concern is what we talked about at the budget meeting, it's more strategic, and that is, I'm concerned that we might price out some impoverished kids out of the market, and I wanna protect the people that can't afford the price increases or the price as it is. I'm not sure. So if there's a way to still recover while protecting those that can't afford it, that would be awesome from my perspective.
Oh, we could certainly talk about, you know, being able to scholarship some of
Yeah.
that
Scholarships,
as well, if the
Grants
scholarship,
or
you know, fund.
discount, you know,
Yeah.
you guys are there, you guys know how to figure that stuff out, but I just, you know, I wanted to make sure that the community knows
Yeah.
that, you know, recreation is important, whether it happens inside one of these walls or not, and that means they have to get them in young
Yeah.
and teach them that.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're definitely on the same page with that. Okay, and then lastly, Sunset Pool rentals, those have resumed in late spring of 2021 with MERTs and local fire departments, and those have continued, so. All right, that's pretty much my presentation. Just a little bit about my community volunteerism. I'm the current board president for the South County Community Food Bank. Have been since 2017. I've been on that board since 2016. Also a Kiwanian with our local Seaside Kiwanis Club, and I am the SMS Builders Club advisor. So my wife and I work with those kiddos up there at the middle school. I was really amazed to walk into the first meeting with the Builders Club this year. We had 50 kids in our Builders Club. They've come out actually and done park cleanup at Broadway Park. I have a couple of kids who right now that are working on a houselessness committee, and they're trying to kind of get an audience with the food bank to see how they can kind of connect up and help there. And then those kiddos actually came and helped with the Fall Fun Fest, like herding cats, kind of, but it was fun. And so, yeah, some really great things happening there. So,
Thanks.
any other questions?
Well, it's SMS, is that Seaside Middle School?
Seaside Middle School, yeah,
Darren likes his acronyms.
I do love acronyms. All right. Thanks, Darren. Well, thank you very much, you
We
guys.
appreciate you.
You've got a wonderful audience.
Is Mike still there?
Thank you, Jen.
Yeah.
Thank you, Darren.
Thank you,
Awesome.
Darren. Thank you.
You are appreciated.
And you are as well.
All right, old business occupancy update.
Yeah.
Your turn. Thank you for hanging with us.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
So how's it going?
Want me to just jump in and give an update?
Sure,
Yeah.
one second,
Oh,
Brandon,
hold on.
sorry, so, yeah, Brandon is actually here, he's gonna talk a little bit, I think with Chris in a few seconds about the strategic or master plan update, but he's working for us on the occupancy too, and, him and Darren have been working a little bit together, so asked him to jump on. Brandon, if you wanna just give us a quick update, same update you shared with me, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, sure, that's great. I think last time we met, we informed the board that we had received some plan, check comments out of the building department. We've since, provided a formal response to those. It took a group effort, as Skylar mentioned, between Darren, Chris, myself, and Skylar, a little bit of poking and prodding to get everything formalized. But we've since turned those in, so, right now we're waiting for confirmation that they've been received. And we're hoping that that actually initiates the rest of the building department's review of the change of occupancy request. So next steps would be, once they acknowledge receipt of the responses, we'll go to work. We're gonna get engaged with them to ask that we get a temporary certificate of occupancy. It's just a formal document that kind of put off, everyone's nerves at ease, if you will. Technically, you've never lost occupancy on the building, but I think if we make that request, then the building department and fire marshal will comply. That'll at least let douse the fire a little bit. We always anticipate 2 rounds of plan review comments, so once we get the second round, we'll respond, and then we're hoping that issues change of use and a permit to do some of the minor improvements that we've included in that.
Okay. Any questions on that part?
Would it be okay if we move item C before item B, just because we
Yeah,
have Chris
yeah,
and Brandon
yep.
here?
Go for it.
Awesome. Okay, so, Chris and Brandon and I have been working, obviously we approved the proposal that we got from, Scott Edwards Architecture to move forward with the master plan. And we had a meeting last week, but the team has met at least once without me. I just got the, proposal today. Brandon put it together pretty quick fashion, which is, appreciated. And included in that proposal is a kind of a timeline of the work that's going to be conducted. That's on the last page, and is the colored sheet. I'm really excited about the process, and I guess from my perspective, again, something that is pretty essential, I think, to the decisions that a Park and Rec agency is going to make that we haven't necessarily had in the guiding us and helping us make those decisions. Brandon and SEA has put together a great team working with the sports facilities company that we worked with on the pro forma and plan for the Sunset Recreation Center, as well as, oh golly, I forgot his name, but a landscape architect who has, it sounds like, some extensive work in this area as well, working in a Park and Rec setting. So I know it's just coming to you today, and I can appreciate that. I think there will be an opportunity for us to adjust. I haven't even had a time to thoroughly review, but just wanted to put it to you and make sure we're good to move forward with at least the initial part of this plan. And we can maybe provide feedback today or over the next week or two in order for the team to get started on some of the work that they have in mind for December.
So are we looking at December 10th for a stakeholder meeting?
So yeah, those stakeholder meetings, I think, and Chris or Brandon, feel free to jump in, but I think that's going to be a pretty easy group to get together. And I'm kind of going to work with Catherine to figure out what that group roster looks like. But it'll probably include a little bit of staff, the project team, and some other folks that we choose to have involvement at this level. Chris,
Yeah, we
Brandon, go ahead.
have dates on the work plan. These are targeted areas and time frames of work, so there's some adjustability and flexibility in there. But you'll notice that, the second week of December, we really like to get started. The work plan is about 7 months to execute, And that first month is really just, understanding goals, visions, understanding the SEPRD's built facilities and touring those with your group, and really just kind of outlining the process, that would really, really take off in January. So we have a month of just kind of getting together, shaping schedule and work plan.
So I think one of these, and I apologize, I've not had time to read through and review this piece, but one of the pieces that I'm sort of envisioning that I was hoping to have at the end of this period for this portion was a master plan that gives us some instruction. So I'm thinking about funding and how we are going to cover costs for this piece, right? And in order to cover costs, we have to explain the costs. We have to be able to explain what needs to get done, why we prioritized it first, second, and third, and so forth. And so, you know, in my head, I'm sort of a visual, and so I think about like that I need to be able to show somebody something and explain what's going to take place there and create some vision in a potential funder or whatever the funding mechanism is to get a large piece of work done. And I'm curious if you could talk to like how that, you know, how, if you think that we're going to come out of this with that, like a phased strategy. Yeah.
Yeah, I really do. You know, the bulk of the work is research, right? So if you go to page 2, you know, we start with, once we tour the facilities and we look at kind of just what you have physically now, then we'll do a competitive facility analysis. So we'll look at within the region, local, and you know, maybe as far as Portland, look at competitors, look at other programs, what they do, how they do it. We'll take a look at your outdoor assets, help develop some concepts around those. And our consultant, SFC, will really dive in on a level of service, facilities level service and program analysis. And all of that is basically going to generate the master plan. And when you come out of the other end of the master plan, it should really be a device that guides you through program development, you know, looking at fee structures, looking at your target demographics and actually how you capture them, give you a plan on how to address deferred maintenance items at each of the facilities, and help give the vision for, you know, the program that those facilities can support. So it'll be a lengthy document that's going to be supplemented with diagrams and maps and images, give you a nice tool that you can use to go out and message, you know, what you're really trying to accomplish over the next couple of years. I would envision that with that, there's going to be some spin-off projects. You know, each facility, depending on the program and what is developed through the master plan, you will have, you know, small projects that have to kick off to address some of those needs in the existing facilities. So I think you will get what you're looking for, and that'll become more relevant as we move through the process. Sports facilities companies, they are experts in this. I mean, that's really why we've teamed with them. They do this across the country. They're a conglomerate of 3 different companies that not only manage facilities like yours, that develop programs, develop fee structures, develop strategies on how you actually go out and target, you know, those different consumer groups. So you will come out in the end, I think, with, you know, a lot of information and some good guidance.
So I feel like, you know, and maybe this is part of the process, like I feel like we got all of that already in our last round with sports facilities with SFA.
You did. You got that with regards to Broadway Middle School. And so it was really just focused on that facility. This will encompass everything. You know,
I guess that's my concern, is that I don't want to have redundancy to what we are. And quite honestly, like we got great information, but I don't know that we felt like we knew how to prioritize what needed to happen at Broadway Middle School with, you know, big maintenance projects or big, like with our aquatic center or with, you know, the other facilities. Like, so I think we're trying to put that whole picture together in order and be able to prioritize. And so I guess my concern is getting too heavy on the information. Like, I feel like we have a lot of information to work from, and And I believe in research, I believe in data, I believe in all the research and doing an evidence-informed strategy, but we have a lot of that, and I still feel like we're sort of working without a master roadmap, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's ultimately the final deliverable. One of the things that we spelled out in the proposal was that we're building on that information, and so selecting a group, you're taking advantage,
Yeah.
you're using the work that was already done, so avoiding any kind of redundancy. Essentially, that effort that was done for Broadway Middle School, we now need to do that with all facilities, and like you said, tie it all together into a comprehensive plan.
And I think that can come down to those first initial meetings with the select group, like really to fine tuning targets.
Yeah, right, yeah.
I also like,
The gentleman that will lead that effort for Sports Facilities Group, they're out of Florida, so they're East Coast now, so they couldn't be with us tonight. But that first kickoff meeting, he'll really be able to walk you through some detailed information and questions, address, anything that you may have that I can't speak to. I was involved with the initial process. I've seen the document, read through it, and understand that we're building on that work.
Okay, great.
So who are the stakeholders?
stakeholders. So that's a group that we're still working to define, but it would probably include, and Brandon or Chris, feel free to jump in, but it would include a member or a couple members of staff. It may include a member of the board. It would probably include some citizens that we feel like are necessary or we want their valuable contribution to this. A very smallish group. This isn't like invite everybody to participate, but it's people that we want to be involved in the process, to have a vested interest in the district and our...
Would it be like the school, somebody from the school board, somebody from the...
I don't know about that. Maybe, but it might also just include folks that have used our services for a long time and have an understanding of what the Park and Rec District is or could be. It could be people from the 3 groups that we formed when we did the SRC planning. We had a group for childcare, we had a group for recreation, expansion of recreation programs, and we had a group for basically using the building to facilitate tourism and economic impact. So it could be a person from each of those groups potentially.
I think the bigger you get the group, the less effective.
But that group, I would imagine, or my hope would be, is that group is like a steering committee or a steering group, and serves as a liaison to other groups, right? So if there is somebody from the board, that they would actually liaise with the rest of the board to pull in more input and provide updates back and forth, right?
They're representatives and they're wherever they come from.
And there is, if you look in February, there is penciled in 3 community engagement sessions to kind of get a broader perspective and feedback from the community. We're still working. We had some good conversation about what those meetings would look like and who would be invited and where they'd be held and that type of thing. And I think this stakeholder group could be really important in helping form those meetings and form the content. Another thing I would say, just going back to your question, Celeste, is I think, and Chris and Jeremy from Clash can help us with this too, is we want to use their expertise to get the product that we want, right? And so they can assist us with kind of leaning, on the process and being as involved as they need to be to help us facilitate the outcome, not manipulate the outcome, you know what I mean, but like facilitate what we actually need to be successful from this.
When you say we, are you talking about the community?
I'm speaking
Or are you talking about this?
moralities, like staff and board working together. Yeah.
I think part of my concern, like even what my thought is around the community boards and the design of those groups, I'm a little afraid that we might sow some confusion in that we had 3 community sessions already last year, and while I know our focus was on the SRC, we were talking more broadly about topics like recreation for all, right? And so that wasn't necessarily just for the SRC. The community was talking about recreation for all in the community altogether. And so, and because we haven't actually, I don't know, I just think it's going to be important that we're not that the community does not see us redoing the same conversations again, and that it's clear that what for is of that input session, so it doesn't sound like we're just going back asking for more information and we haven't sort of used or shown the information that we got last year.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. And within the work plan, you know, we have about 2 months to develop that. One of the key parts of the public engagement process is going to be the survey that we develop. So fine-tuning the information that we're actually looking for and the message we're conveying is going to be very important.
Yep.
And we'll have time to finesse that, you know, not only with the smaller project team, but also with the stakeholder group. So we'll be able to hit that nail on the head.
How do you ensure that the surveys that get returned are randomized in the community and not just surveys from supporters or people that disagree with us?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, the survey will be digital and for the most part. So we're going to use, you know, our public forums, right, our community engagement sessions. We're going to issue an online survey. So we'll also have a social media campaign. So we're going to use, you know, multiple sources of media to make sure we're hitting everybody and not just, you know, like you said, selective supporters and advocates of the group. A lot of times it's more informative to hear the negative side and what people don't want versus what they do want, so that we can make sure we're addressing them accordingly.
And maybe Skylar, you know, can we still send out mailers with the water bills?
We can, yeah, it's a matter of timing, and water bill only goes out once a month, and it's also doesn't go to all district residents, just goes to City of Seaside residents. So we'd be missing a portion of, but yes, that is a way that we could distribute.
I know there's a fair amount of our population that doesn't do online or social media or electronic anything. We have a large, older.
My water bill is every 2 months.
Oh, 2 or 3, yeah.
2.
So that might be, you know, putting together a flyer with a, you know, please go to this site, or just, or mail it, well, not a QR code, but, you know, or even just a, you know, fill out, I don't know.
Yeah, if it's online, then you're relying on people with computers and internet access and all that stuff to respond. And I don't know if that's the target market that we have. I mean, I'm routinely disappointed by the surveys that I receive because it just worded so terrible, and I just get mad at them. So just do a good survey. That's all I have to say. But the second part is I went to one of the public engagement meetings where the architect described the plan, and it was awesome. But I think I might have been the only one there from the community. So I'm really concerned. I want to get people that love us and people that hate us to tell us what we should be doing. I mean, we're supposed to represent the community, and I want to get all voices.
Bring them in.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's easier if they're responding to something or if it's a narrow, like I do worry about being too broad in some of our stuff and getting more specific, particularly because we have so much information for the SRC already, you know, and how do we dial it in some? But I agree with you also, given our large Hispanic population, like how do we reach those folks and make sure they're giving us feedback, you know?
My goal would be to ask Jocelyn.
Yeah.
I mean, she can tell us how to reach.
And how do we, and I think another piece that we capture, and I have to say, this is not, I don't feel like this was captured as well as maybe it could have been with the SFA. I think one of the big pieces, or one of the big demographics that they missed, and that I think we're missing, is an opportunity to engage tourists that come to our area. Tourism drives our whole economy. We balloon from, 6,000 residents to 60,000 residents on some weekends. And we don't talk to any of those. Like, we don't talk to any of those folks. And a lot of them don't know we're here. But we have a new opportunity for them to know we're here with the prime real estate that we have now. But I don't know how we would capture that demographic. Most of the SFA data relied on the idea of whether or not people would travel here to use our facilities, but actually they already come here. So I don't think it took that kind of thing into an account.
Well, I would mirror what you were saying, because in the water, I'm in the water 5 days a week, and the number consistently, there'll be a visitor. I didn't know you were here. And it's, you know, like, how can we fix that? And that once they're here, they can come back. But I consistently hear that. I didn't know this was here. And I don't know how that is actually true.
Well, how would they know?
That's what they said.
How would they know?
Well, and, I mean, see, I got involved because of my daughter and a bus stop.
But how would a tourist know that we're here?
And of course it was Broadway Middle School, now it's not.
Well, I think, the answer to your question, we used to have flyers in the hotels. I've long thought that we should do some sort of pass for the vacation homes that they could buy into and have a, because like my mom used to be at Chicken River Ranch, and you could have a hanging pool pass as part of it, and that was part of an incentive for people to stay at that property versus the one next door.
Like World Market.
But anyway, we're getting off topic.
That's an excellent idea. I mean, if you've ever gone to Sun River, you know they have the shark communities.
Yeah.
So I think all those ideas need to be explored up front in this, first couple months of the effort. And the tourism idea is great. You have regional events that happen, like the Seaside Basketball Tournament that happens annually. That is a huge event, people coming from all over.
Right.
So, yeah, I think as a team, we can really push the bar a little bit higher.
Yeah, these surveys are a science, right? And with SFC, we've really got a good partner in there who's going to be able to give us some good advice on these things. But also, we need to bring these specific things that you guys just mentioned. Electronic only is not going to take some people who would have responded otherwise out of the loop. Tourism, how far to reach out, all those things can be discussed. I really think at this point, putting together that stakeholder group so that we can have that kickoff meeting and really start to figure it out. As Brandon mentioned, that public engagement plan is starting in January on our current schedule. So we have a little bit of time in the busy last month of the year in order to establish that stakeholder meeting and really get us kicked off on making sure that all of the things that we're interested in are going to make it in that public engagement plan. We also did mention that, we kind of talked quickly about who could be potentially part of that stakeholder plan. And obviously it would make sense, I think, for a board member to be there. We'd want to make sure and limit it to no more than two members of the board, just to make sure that you don't need to get into public meeting for each of those meetings, because as you can see, they're going to happen quite frequently. So that's just another thing to think about when we're developing who those stakeholders will be.
Can I make a recommendation, is that you keep that stakeholder list just really small, like 4 or 5 people, because, the customers they're tangentially stakeholders, but really it's Skylar, you guys, maybe a board member, maybe somebody from the city or school district, I don't know, depending on how they're involved with the property transactions. But I would keep it really, really small, or it'll take months to get any.
I totally agree. And they can consult to other groups, right?
Yeah, well, they can have a stakeholder group, and then they can have a customer group or whatever that they can bounce ideas off of. But the smaller you are, the more alacrity you have, and the more ability to react quickly. That's what's
I'd like to throw my hat into the ring as to be considered to be on the stakeholder group. I'd be interested and have the time to commit.
I'll second that. You'll be good at that.
Well, she's been here from the beginning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she knows all this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm just very grateful for what you brought up, because this does, my first reaction, considering I just got it tonight, was that this seemed redundant. And so I'm glad that you brought up your point. Thank you.
Any other questions on this item? Do we need it? I feel weird.
Are you seeking approval of this?
Yeah.
So-
I haven't had a chance to read it.
I don't feel like that's probably fair to the contract or to you. And I haven't read it either, so I'm not even able to present it in full faith. I don't have any doubt that it's great, but what I do want to make sure the board understands is if you don't approve it tonight, which
It'll push us back.
No, I don't think so, because I think we can move forward on.
Uh-oh.
Nope, Darren. No signal.
Uh-oh.
Our computer's on, but our poly system went away.
Can they
Looks like
still hear us?
Looks like it's resetting.
Well, I don't think there's anything we've already approved.
That's what I mean, it's
Contract
like,
with
we're
these
gonna move
folks.
forward.
This could be considered an
Right.
update,
And-
correct?
Yeah, we're gonna, I'd like to move forward, just the board needs to understand, we probably won't be able to present this back to you until our meeting in January, unless you wanna have a special meeting
Although,
in December.
if you make updates to this, if there are updates, or if you could solicit individual feedback from board
Absolutely.
members,
Yeah,
right,
and
about
that's
questions
why-
or concerns,
yeah, that's why I
and
was-
make updates and work with them to finalize a plan and provide us with,
And you can send out,
an update
you
back.
can send out information
Right.
about where you are.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as you don't do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Serious.
Yeah.
Right.
Really.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a nice piece of work, you guys. I'm looking forward to
Hey,
this.
Brandon, Chris, can you hear us?
This could be something
Could be
really
huge for our
special.
community.
Sorry,
It will
we
be
lost
huge.
our poly system,
Power glitch earlier.
Oh, yeah.
but you're still there and we can hear you, and I think you guys are good to go if you wanna log off. I appreciate it.
Every
I'll be in touch with you, maybe tomorrow or early next week. Have a great holiday.
Well, you know, one of the things that is a really bizarre event, like I'm in the, since we're kind of in a moment here.
They're gonna go, we're good to proceed.
The Coaster Theater, I mean, I turned in everything I was supposed to, and the message didn't compute, but it didn't kick back. And so I'm left out of something where people are saying, wait a minute, here's your picture, where's your information? And so if that happened to me, I can see that happening to a whole lot of people, where they're left out.
All right, Starley Field update, go. Oh, sorry.
I
Go ahead,
just
John.
want to finish this up. So you're authorized to proceed, right?
Right, we did that
So
last.
you don't need any
I would just say,
signatures or
we should
anything.
look this over,
Yeah.
and if you
provide
have
feedback.
any, yes, provide feedback, and Skylar will work with them to make adjustments.
Ideally, if Celeste is gonna be our board representative, you can provide feedback to her and she can funnel it, or you can provide it to me if you'd like to do that.
Do you want a motion for Celeste?
I think that would be great, since she's
Okay.
gonna be the board's designee.
I move that Celeste be the designee for the, what do you call this project? Strategic
Master
planning,
plan.
Master planning services.
Okay, thank you, Kyle. Do we have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Sue. All in favor signify aye. Opposed, nay.
Aye.
Kyle?
Aye.
Sue?
I
Celeste?
Abstain?
Mike, can you hear us?
I'm still there.
Okay, did you?
Aye.
Okay, aye, motion carries. Thank you, Celeste, for your service. More service, I mean.
yeah, thank you.
Okay, Broadway Field update, go. You have 5 minutes.
There's no way I'm gonna make.
We got it.
I'm
Go.
sorry. It's all right.
Go fast.
So, well, I don't wanna rush this, because I think we've been waiting for about
Yeah.
at least 6 months, or maybe like 3 years, for this conversation to actually be able to proceed, and now it's able to proceed. So yes, on Monday night, last Monday, I guess, the city council did approve the school district's request or proposal for, construction of a new softball field on property that is primarily owned by the city of Seaside, but partially owned by SEPRD as a result of our acquisition of the Broadway Middle School property. They did require the school district to agree to 3 conditions, and I laid those out for you, items 1, 2, and 3. It's my understanding that the school district is hopeful that the project will move quickly now, and have construction begin in the spring, as early as May when baseball and softball seasons are concluded. So what I'm looking for, I guess, is some feedback from the board on what their level of involvement would like to be with this. I think there will be some opportunity for the board to contribute to a, I don't know if it's called a stakeholder group or a community feedback group, to provide design recommendations and have opportunities to offer other input on the project. I think that's one part of the discussion for you. I also am looking for feedback or a discussion. Staff, Levi, Darren, myself, we've had many conversations about this, and I just tried to aggregate the results of our conversation in no particular order. You can see the items that we would be looking for. One of the conditions is that the IGA will be redone by the time construction starts. So that's a pretty, it sounds like a long time, but in government with 3 different bodies, that's could be a pretty tight timeline. So that on page 2 of this memo, you'll see the items that staff felt like are important for the IGA to consider if it is to be redone or significantly revised. So I'm happy to field questions, but kind of just want to get the board's thoughts. And
I had one basic question. The property line that goes by number 1, is that like seaside? And
sorry, I can't see that.
I just was curious what that meant. I mean,
So yeah, everything this direction is City of Seaside with the exception of this box right here. Okay, so the community gardens sit on City of Seaside property, and all of this land is City of Seaside property.
okay.
This land, from that dotted red line over, is our property because of the purchase of the SRC.
I mean, how did he get a diagonal?
So question above my pay grade, I'm afraid. I'm sorry, I don't understand the property lines, especially on this property there.
So how will this, project integrate with our master plan?
Yeah, it's a great question, and that's actually one of the things that I talked about with the project team in a meeting last week. Some concerns that I have about our master planning process being confused by the community as being part of that, or that's our problem, or, you know, it's kind of complicated, I think, and it has a potential to really, I'm concerned that it could dilute our process and our hope for input from the community. Our master plan.
Our master planning process, okay.
Yeah. But I don't think, they're aware of this change, our project team. And I think if anything, the end result will be that we have more facilities available that we are managing, right? We'll still have their facility, it'll be in a different location, but hopefully reassembled in the same condition that it is now. We'll have a full-size softball field that can be independent of a baseball field, so we can have baseball and softball playing at the same time. While that's really to fulfill the school district's purposes, I think it will benefit us when it comes to rentals, things like that. We can host more activities on the field because we have these isolated kind of different parts of the field that will not have as much overlap as they do now.
Yeah, so, and I get that. I'm thinking, you know, we have this contractor, Scott Edwards Architects, and we're going to do this master plan, and then on the side, we're negotiating with the schools in the city for some other kind of plan.
Well, it's the school that messed up.
Right, but, you know, we're paying to design something, and then underneath that umbrella, we've got these other things going on.
Shifting.
I think,
Yeah.
in my opinion, this is what has made it tough to figure out which fire to deal, like, not fire, I shouldn't say that, but
Well, you
which,
can say that to me.
but which project to deal with, what is the priority, right?
Yeah,
And it
right.
makes it tough, because we don't have an umbrella plan for the whole district. On the other hand, that while you're planning, life goes on, and part of life is that there's this window of opportunity, and the school district is forced to do something about their softball situation because it's a Title IX violation, and they have to move fast. Yeah, they have to move fast, and so the options were here, or the field on Wahana, which has not been found to be great, or who knows, right? They don't have very many options, so this is, and in the scheme of things, at least for myself, the way I reconcile this is that, you know, we're building sort of a campus of recreation here that we have right now with the SRC and the aquatics and all this. It's like a campus.
Right.
And so it's kind of cool to have the softball here too.
One-stop shop.
Right, it's one-stop shop.
Yeah.
So, is it ideal? No, I totally agree with you because, but they have to move, they can't wait for us to finish them. They have to, they actually are beyond their deadline.
Well,
to be able to-
the purpose of my question was to ask if Celeste could be on this project too. I didn't want to burden you any more than already, but there needs to be some coordination, I think,
Yeah.
between the strategic planning or master
Yeah,
planning process and these negotiations with the.
Right now, it's Tyler. Because you're the one
But I
who
do
speaks
think-
at the city council.
I think he needs some board, I think it's better to
You
have
need
some board.
backup, yeah.
But maybe Kyle, you could join me and be a second chair to it, and that we could maybe tackle.
Well, I'll help any way I can, but I just want, I just want to make sure that these processes don't diverge in
Right.
such a way that we get something on one end that we don't want.
And I'd also, I mean, Mike would also be a good, because he's been there since the
Mike,
beginning.
yeah.
He was here when this was built.
Right.
Yeah,
That's true.
Mike would be awesome at this, but my point is not about either of the individual processes. My point is about how they communicate between each other.
Yeah, and that they should dovetail in,
Yeah,
right?
there's-
Because this is part of the consideration.
Yeah, I mean, even if we have to pay our consultant more to be a part of that project, I'd be open to that too, but
Oh, that's a good idea.
well, I just want to make sure that we don't have discontinuous
Right.
things going on.
I think it's a really strong point. And important because this plan actually takes into consideration some of the parking that was previously discussed, right? From the,
Mhm.
yeah, so I think it, which you might not know otherwise, that it's,
As well as the locker room project.
as well,
Right.
right, the locker room.
So, Tyler, does it still seem that the school district is still dragging their feet?
For the last, I think, 5 or 6 months, I don't think the school district has dragged their feet. I think the process has been delayed by other factors, dynamics, and there was a desire to make sure that the school district, you know, messaged this out and got public input, and shared with the community what they're doing or what they wanted to do and why they needed to do it. And I think that process has now been, for the most part, completed, and they've gotten the approval from the city whose this land belongs to proceed. So now I think, like I said, the timeline is tight, and so I think there's going to be a significant amount of work and coordination and communication and meeting, decisions to be made to comply with, you know, sorry, number one, 2, and 3,
Yeah.
to make sure those get done before construction starts.
So, the only thing that okay, let me start. I have 2 questions. So where they're putting the parking, that was something that, when we first bought the property, we had possibly discussed, you know, selling that part off, putting something else, so many things to do there. And then for me personally, I realized this past spring, we use that for T-ball because there is nowhere else for T-ball. So if that turns into parking, then what for the T-ball program? You know, where do they go then? So that, you know, I know we need more parking, but at the same time, can we also think about what's displacing? Where are they going?
I gotta say, I was surprised to see parking there.
I know,
I didn't
I don't
expect that.
love that idea, but I
Well,
get it.
If you think about it's part of the Title IX equity process. They have parking that's readily available close to the baseball field.
That's
and
part of
they
it.
wouldn't have any close to the softball field. As well as the other consideration is you need emergency access to the softball field.
And we're trying to limit the usage of that
Of the access
through
road.
the, you know, that driveway that's there. Just
Which
we have
is
little
fine.
kids running across
I
it, right?
just, in the grand, like, I just want the conversation to be like, okay, we're taking this away, we have very little open community space. Is there any place else that we can
So is the
move
dog
that?
park disappearing too, so that we have
I don't think the
access?
dog park is disappearing. No, I don't think that's part, I haven't seen that as part of the plan.
And then one of the items was the community gardens, that they're gonna be responsible for relocating, so like, what is where?
Yeah, so they were working on that. They had proposed a site, near the cafeteria, and we had kind of shared with them that we didn't think that was the best site. I know they've discussed two other sites, near, kind of in this campus area, one being, near the American Legion, which would be, I think, a good spot in its location, and, that it has the services that you would need to create a garden.
What, do we know if they have some sort of master plan for that area that's in between the playgrounds on Broadway Park? So I could see that being a great space for community gardens,
Yeah, potentially.
because there's water there at the restroom,
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
and it's just open space
Yep.
and sun, because the area next to the cafeteria, it's shaded almost.
Yeah,
You know,
I think that,
90% of the time.
that location has been ruled out.
But basically, anything that we come up with the school district and the city is going to impact our master plan on the other end.
Yep.
Or could impact.
Or could, right.
At a minimum, I guess that's, maybe that should be higher on my list of like, these are the things we need to worry about. I'm more, I guess, focused on how is this gonna affect our operational budget, how is it gonna affect our maintenance team, right?
But those are part of the master plan.
Well, and it has to be done really truly, like by May
No,
of
it
next year.
doesn't have to be done by May. Their deadline was June 2023. I think they have expressed that there might be an opportunity for them to file for an extension.
As long as they're probably showing progress.
Yeah,
would
to
be
show
my guess.
progress, and so their timeline, and because they don't have another site to play baseball or softball or football, they could probably move soccer, but I think those other sports would be difficult to move at a varsity level. Their hope was to start construction the day after baseball ended and complete it over the course of the summer months to be able to play football and soccer in August, start practice in August.
Well, is it our goal to help them facilitate that?
I think that is part of our role as being a partner and being an agency that wants people to have access to spaces like the one that this will create. I know there's lots of questions and, you know, not sure things that we're gonna have to dive into that we don't have the answer to, like the financing mechanism for how this gets paid for. What, if any, is the compensation for us allocating some of our property that we paid for, actually paid them for, not long ago? What is our process for reconciliation with that, or what is our compensation for that? And those are questions that I think the board needs to start kind of wrapping their head around and providing feedback to Celeste or Mike or whoever's on that group, because those are decisions I can't make independently. I can provide recommendations, I can provide input, but I think those are decisions that the elected officials need to assist or make on their own.
Do you think the public, you know, because I went to that one board meeting with you, do you think the public understands this is, why we're doing this, why this is happening, that it isn't something that Sunset Empire Park and Recreation District is doing, this is the school district's mistake or miscalculation, however you want to phrase that. And we are complying with Title IX, which is a legal process, and we are being a good faith steward to say, yes, we will help do this, but, you know, we didn't, this isn't our, it isn't our problem, but it's we're part of the solution.
Sure.
And I don't know that.
I don't know if everybody understands either, Sue, but I do know that the information has been made available to folks. I think the school district, over the past few months, they've had community meeting sessions, they've presented at city council at least 3 times. They've, you know, I think done what they need to do to offer the information out there, whether people took advantage or got the good information, got the accurate information. That's, I mean, we know that that's up to folks. We have people that have perceptions about the way the district is running, our district, and they might offer feedback in one way or another, but, you know, you're the ones that are here at meetings, so I don't know if that's answers your question, but I guess from my perspective, I think they've done an adequate job of informing the public. There's probably still a lot of people that don't understand.
The school district.
Yeah.
So, how much difference is there between the boundaries of the school district and the boundaries of?
Yeah, we have the same boundaries except for the school district includes residents of Deer Heart and Cannon Beach, whereas we don't.
Oh, so we could ask the school district to send out,
Yeah.
notice on our behalf,
Yeah.
and if it happens to
That's
capture
smart.
some people in Deer Heart.
You mean for our plan, our master plan?
Well,
or
for
this?
our community input, for.
I think we should, and we shared their information in our network, and I think that they would acquiesce to that request.
I think it's a great idea, and to your point, Sue, I mean, I think presenting it, I mean, it's a problem for all of us, right? We want our community to be in compliance with Title IX expectations, right? That all kids have access.
Yeah, we don't have a choice.
Right?
We have to.
We have to, but also.
Whether we want to or not.
Yeah, but we also like it, and we like the idea of being part of the solution.
And once it's all finished, we will benefit.
It'll be awesome, right? Like that's, I think that's what we want to aim
The
is.
girls.
Well, and it
Right.
goes back to
Yeah,
what Catherine
exactly.
said about the core,
Yeah.
which I think we should never lose sight of that.
And so I think to the end of the story and the narrative that maybe we need to, as a board, help put into the community and support our staff putting into the community is, this is not like, yes, although if the timeline's quick and there's some challenges around this, overall, this is going to be awesome. We're going to have an awesome complex for both boys and girls in our community, right next to the awesome Hirsch, hitting facility right there, and eventually new services available at the Sunset Rec Center, and we're building something that's going to be awesome. And I think that's the narrative and I think that's brilliant to ask the school district to help us get that message out to Deer Heart and Cannon Beach, because if those folks joined our district,
That's
we
on
would
my
be,
goal for next year.
yeah, I mean, we would be in a situation where improving the SRC at a faster pace.
Do they have their own districts now?
No.
So it'd be an annexation at that point, it wouldn't be a merger.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Can I say a couple things?
Go ahead, Mike.
I sure do agree that these are important questions here, and, for the board, how to go forward. I would certainly volunteer myself as part of any committee that would like to work in a cooperative spirit with the school district and the city. I do have concerns, about the future of what the IGA might look like. But I am concerned about our loss of the community gardens behind the pool, which was promised to us for exclusive use by the city when we sold them the Able House, so that they could build a new library over there.
Right.
And they promised us that old Wally World property we could use that, the park district could use that to create community gardens. We are going to lose exclusive right to that property, allowing the Hirsch training facilities to be moved into that area. I know Scouter has assured me that we have, you know, a good partnership growing, around relocating the community gardens. That is fine, but we will still lose the exclusive use of that area for Park District activities or construction. So I'm interested in how this, you know, Mary Blake, I'm sure can reiterate much of the record on that. But I go back to that time on the board when we made the agreement with the city, and there's at least a memorandum of understanding and a contract between us which outlines the dedication of that land. So if we are going to lose that property, will the city give us exclusive right to some other property? Maybe we should look at the youth center, but we didn't, you know, and we've got, it's named the Sunny Hunt Community Gardens. The Park District could do that because we owned it, although ironically, we were never received a deed to that land. It was never partitioned. I think the idea of renovating the locker rooms and everything makes perfect sense. And for us to work in partnership with the school district to provide that, I would like to really be a part of the planning process and see how the Park District can work. Ironically as well, I was on the Seaside Parks Advisory Committee when that committee was formed, and we developed a master plan for Broadway Park. And Catherine's husband was also on that committee at that time. And it's a bitter pill to swallow, believe me, that we're having to do this. But the school district was at the table when the Broadway Park was made. And they're very much, I guess, liable for the cost of these renovations. The city, I don't know how much the city is willing to eat on this, but there is opportunity here, and I think the school district's needs are very important, and I've always supported the school district, and as a board member, I will continue to try to do that in the best interest of our youth. So,
I definitely think compensation in some form or another for the, I mean, that's a pretty significant chunk of the property that we just purchased that they're asking for.
And the homeowners back there are all okay with having those nets? I mean, I guess there was a question about that.
Yeah, so I mean, I haven't gone to the homeowners and talked to them, but I know a few of them have been involved and have participated in feedback. There was a survey that the school district got feedback on. Actually, I had one property owner that lives right by the scoreboards come into the pool, and we met and chatted for a while, and he was very understanding about the situation and what would need to happen. But I think overall, the sense that I've gotten from folks is that yes, this isn't ideal, timing isn't ideal. We prefer not to have to move the facility, but the end result of having a really cool facility in a really cool area of our city, of our community, of our district to show off to you know, guests, visitors, tourists, but also serve our residents is going to be something I think that's really noteworthy and special. To have all of these amenities, indoor space, outdoor space, proximity to the beach, proximity to downtown, parks, you know, basketball court, football, all that stuff. I think that's really neat. That's unique for a small community.
It just seems kind of fragmented right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a result, you know, of well, it's not the IGA's fault, but there's three government entities that are working together. Then you have this situation where we buy part of the property from one of the other entities, right? You have this Hirsch Family Training Facility that gets built, which is a good thing, but the timing of it, it's almost like, hey, we should have stopped this probably and said, are you guys going to use this? Because it doesn't look like you are, that's why we're building the facility here, and they could have said, actually, we are thinking about using that.
Well,
you should build this facility in this spot.
and I was on the board when we approved that project, and I guarantee the school district already knew they were in hot water but it wasn't public knowledge.
But this is why the strength of that, I mean, I'm really interested in seeing that the IGA moving forward isn't just a document like a single agreement and we make some decisions and move on. That should be a continuing living body that consults each other, in my opinion, because I think it's so important. Each of these entities work on behalf of our citizens. We all pay taxes into these same entities, right? And I think having them work collaboratively so that we're making the best plans moving forward. I think it's just really important that that IGA group moves forward.
A representative, and they meet, quarterly or something. Just,
Yeah.
Something spelled out.
That has happened.
Right.
I mean, with the, not elected officials, but with the staff, the city manager, the superintendent, and we had a monthly meeting on the books. And now we're meeting actually probably more frequently than that. And this is a frequent topic of the conversation. We've kind of just been waiting for this last domino to fall and knowing that, okay, now we're going to get to kind of dig our heels in.
I think it would be nice, though, to have running concurrently to that board or council or whatever leadership kind of open communication going on so that the relationships and trust are there, so that staff don't run into roadblocks unexpectedly, because if the staff are moving along and all on the same page and then all of a sudden for some reason it doesn't mesh up or line up with what
So just an intergovernmental working group
Right.
that stays semi-permanent.
Right.
I appreciate
Somehow.
that.
Mhm.
Other questions?
What exactly do you just need a blessing to keep
So I
moving
guess,
forward? Do you need a
I feel like we've
motion?
had at least 2, maybe 3 names put forward, and, okay, Mike and Celeste are
Mike and
names, so maybe a
Celeste are
motion
right.
on those folks being involved. And then the other,
I would love to see Erica somehow back involved.
yeah.
I know she's not as a representative of the board,
As
but
a citizen.
yeah,
Yeah.
because she was
Sure.
so instrumental.
We'll have
Well, there's an opening on the budget.
opportunities. The other thing, and I think, I can send out the IGA, I think some of you probably have it in your archived email, but just maybe
Review.
for folks that haven't seen it, Kyle, Sue, I'm not sure if you've seen it, is to look at it, and we can have conversations about other things that you're like, oh, this doesn't really make sense, or this doesn't add up, or this doesn't seem like it's in the best interest of the district. I think there's lots of little tidbits, and these are just kind of the staff perspective, but I think they represent the amount of wholesale changes that the document really needs to be successful.
I agree with Kyle's kind of earlier comment about maybe we need to loop in our consultants and.
Yeah, I like that
Can you
idea.
just ask what they would charge to?
So are we talking about Closh, or are we talking about Brandon, are we talking about the Sports Facilities Advisory Company?
Brandon is SEA, right?
Yes, Brandon is the,
This-
Scott Edwards, architect,
the
project
business
manager, yeah. He's the lead on that submission.
I guess I would ask them and
And he's
say.
an architect by training?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, they do civic projects, I mean, I think, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know, I mean, some of those guys might be engineers or architects
Right.
or just
Who
both.
designing for the.
For the school district?
Yeah.
So this is VCS, probably a concept by them, this is their engineering firm. And then OTAC Engineering is also working for them. But
So
I don't think it's
guarantee you that
unreasonable.
one of the school district's consultants is gonna be at the.
What's that?
I'm guessing one of the school district's
Yeah.
consultants will be at the meeting.
I would suggest that maybe we could start with Chris from Klosh Group or Jeremy from Klosh Group. I think they'll have a sense for, they're owners reps that are gonna work for us. They're not gonna dive into the nitty gritty, but they'll be able to say, well, let's hold up. I want the Park and Rec District to be able to talk to their landscape architect or their engineer or their architect to make sure that this makes sense.
Bring in the right
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
on our behalf.
Yeah.
Well, what I don't wanna do is go out and deliver a survey to people and they tell us to do one thing, and then when we get the surveys back, we can't do it because we got this,
Yeah.
other
Well,
adventure going on.
I mean, I think we just have to assume that this is gonna happen
Mhm.
in some form or another. So it's not really a question of like, do we want this to happen? It is gonna
Well,
happen.
we have the city council approval now.
Right, which, I mean, they still need ours because part of this is on our
Right.
land.
Right.
But I think they've already gotten a letter of support from us and like for the good of the community, it needs to happen. I think the comes down to the details, you know, the fine print and the government agreement. And so I think the survey that they're gonna send out, I think we just need to tell them, this is gonna happen in some form. So planning on things being in that space or whatever, we just can't. It's gonna be a softball field. So let's not ask for opinions on what we should do with that space. You know, and then get our people to help us fine tune what this looks like to our benefit. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And that parking area is part of the Title IX requirement.
Currently.
Well, I think we
still
could,
feel like
I think we
need
could,
to fight
I think we can look into it, and I think it gives us some, I mean, here's the thing, is if we're agreeing to move forward, the city already put a lot of stipulations in place, right?
Right.
It isn't carte blanche to move
Right.
forward with
They have to
everything, it's meeting these, I thought, pretty, we have to grant a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so, we have lots of room to come to the table with where would we wish the community gardens could be put? Like, I think, I don't know the answer.
So that's
I
a
don't know
master
the-
plan question.
That's a good master plan question, right? And we
Yeah.
could put that on,
yeah.
I mean, there might be some places, I didn't know the community gardens were there until I was on the board, and you toured us, like, I didn't know, so maybe there's a more visible place so that people would know, or maybe, I don't know, but I'd probably ask Mike, he knows where
He
stuff goes,
uses
some
them.
parts, yeah,
Yeah.
so,
Well, on this group that is page 2, who came up with all these ideas?
Staff.
which I think is a good look.
I mean, I think
Yeah.
that's a positive thing.
So,
Good.
can I pause and, just make a request or recommendation?
Go.
I'm hearing some great things, but I think what would be most impactful and ensure that the message gets across to the school district is to have some of these things communicated in writing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the city did. And I think that it would be really powerful for the board, and I can help draft a letter, but it says, glad you got your approval from the city. Here's what we need to see as additional items, in addition to what the city has requested, we need to discuss, we need to be fairly compensated for our part of the property. We need to understand how the locker room,
Fits into the picture.
how the locker room renovations work. Are we gonna be, is SEPRD gonna be on the financial hook for some of those changes? Where the community garden's gonna be, those types of things. Maybe field replacement is part of this discussion too, because what I imagine will happen is that the existing field will be re-turfed at the same time or around the same time as part of this project. So in addition to a new construction.
Have they said that?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I've said it because here's the thing, is the field is 10 years old and it was expected to last 10 years if we were lucky, and it could probably make it another year or two, but since we're going to have the equipment and the know-how, this would be a great time probably to redo the
So I
field.
know you said that, but have they said that?
I think I can confidently say that all of our partners in the IGA know that it is in the best interest of all of us to resurface the existing field at this time.
And where does that, how does that cover? Right?
How is that, it's laid out in the current IGA,
Right.
but perhaps, in my opinion, unsatisfactorily to
Right.
the district's
That's all
financial
intention,
interests, right?
yeah.
And so,
Right.
all of those things I would really like, I guess, to make sure that the school district knows we are going to be holding you accountable as much as we need to during this process. We already paid for the building. Like, there's just, and I don't want to act like my feelings are hurt, I just want to make sure that our residents know and our district isn't financially responsible for this situation that we're in.
Right.
And we're not gonna subsidize the school district to get them out.
Correct.
And that, to be fair, like, we have the opportunity to leverage what has been 10 years of us being leveraged in operating the field for maybe something great for all of the parties and for the, you know, whatever it is we want out of it. If it's renovated locker rooms, if it's this or that, if it's community gardens, all those things I think we can ask for and really, you know, advocate for.
But those are things that we would ask for in the detailed meetings that
I think
Michael would be attending, right?
Yeah, I think it would be beneficial for us to have something.
From the big picture, we have to say, you know, we want to be fairly compensated for any property transactions here.
I mean, it's probably the single biggest item, right, is
The
to
compensation.
come to agreement, right? Because they have their three things, which
I would
have
say
to do with
either
design.
the
and
locker
Yeah, but they're all
room
big
piece or
picture things.
They're all big picture things, right?
Yeah, you know, the city doesn't talk about, you know, the locker rooms or the, you know,
Right.
that kind of stuff. So what are our big picture things? I think, you said we want to be fairly compensated. I would say it has to solve the problem of the complainant. I mean, we can design this, but the girl who complained has to accept that this will meet the Title IX needs.
Is that on us or is that?
It's on the school district, but we're in the unique position of helping them solve that.
Yeah.
But we don't want to invest anything and then find out, well, we didn't get the outcome that we wanted.
And the other thing about this is, I don't know if I'm gonna say this right, it's federally mandate, like, the government is involved in making sure
Oh,
this is
yeah,
They're gonna
correctly
approve,
done.
they're
Yeah.
gonna have the opportunity to
Federal
review
Title
and
IX,
approve
yeah,
this
it's a big
plan.
deal.
Yeah, so.
So that's
it's
a
not-
great point, so, because what we don't want to do is be invested in a new facility that then comes back and says, well,
This isn't
whoops,
gonna work.
it doesn't quite have enough stuff, and now you gotta knock down your gym to make sure you have enough.
Parking
Yeah,
spaces.
right, exactly, yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so
Title IX
Approved
compliant,
meet
right?
Title IX compliance.
Mhm.
And did we budget anything for this?
So we have some money set aside in our capital project budget for something like this. I think we were hoping to allocate those funds for projects at the SRC that are needed. But if need be, we can shift some of those resources to field replacement. As far as I know, and I haven't, those would be the only costs that we would be expected to contribute to at this time. We wouldn't be expected to contribute to the new construction or to the locker room.
Or the moving of building, or moving of the gardens.
But we would spend money, if they were gonna do some construction, we might leverage that construction to save money of our own some other way.
Yeah, so the field replacement will probably be much cheaper because
Because it's already been dug up. So maybe our third thing is that we want to be able to leverage our own needs into the development of this process.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
Is that part of fairly compensated, or do you
No,
feel
fairly
like that's
compensated,
separate?
that's a land
Separate,
transaction
okay.
kind of thing.
Yep.
I mean, and you said that, I think, once before, it's like, you know, we paid full price when we bought it from them, so we're not
Right.
gonna give them a discount when we sell it back, which, I
Yes, I mean,
support.
they might say that we got a great deal, and I think we did, but I also think they never said to us,
Hey, we need that piece of property
yeah,
for future needs.
here's the discount,
Yeah.
because we want to
We
build
might want it back.
this
So-
thing.
So your third thing kind of was sort of leverage improvements, that feed,
So
The district.
leverage improvements that meet the strategic.
So there, yeah,
Meet-
there's some number of
Sounds good, that's fine.
locker room, there's make more, I address some of them, more maintenance area, more storage area
Right,
for
yeah.
sports equipment.
yeah, it covers a lot of those things, okay,
Mhm.
great.
And I want to make sure that the board understands while we've discussed this at, you know, at great length. I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to not having to talk about that ever again. I don't know if that will ever come. All that the school district has officially in writing from us is a letter of support, basically. And it's been included in all of the documentation that they send out. They've, championed that. And we have a letter of support from Seaside Kids and from the Hirsch family and from SEPRD. And that letter of support indicates that we have questions and there's lots of things to work out, but we are supportive of the project moving forward.
Yeah,
So I think there's just this need, a little gap in the communication, because if I was them, I might be thinking, oh, SCPRD doesn't really care that we're gonna use their land. And until they tell us that they do care, then we're gonna just
Keep moving
presume that
ahead.
everything's moving forward.
Yeah, I think you're in written, I think written letter, which is why I'm writing down the things we're discussing from the board, is important. And then I also think having board representation along with staff representation in there is exactly where we need to be. Like, we want to be at the table during these discussions. Because when we drafted that original letter, I mean, we were very, very clear, we have things that we want answered before we are.
June,
Yeah.
I think, or
So,
July maybe. I mean, it was, shows you how, long things.
And I was just spelling these things just like stream of consciousness. So, I mean, there may be some much better strategic goals that the board has that I couldn't come up with in like 30 seconds. There probably are, but I think we need to give them big picture stuff that we can refine later.
yeah. And, I would like we specific thought process for where they're thinking they want to move things.
Yeah, I think we need clarity around clarity around an iterative process where there's feedback loops, right? Like, there has to be stages of approval, right? So just because we're joining the committee doesn't mean it's all a go and anything they want goes. It means that we're going to have stages. So I think that could be one of maybe the first order of business. Like, how does this conversation roll out?
How do we move forward?
Right, exactly.
From a person with less tenure than anybody else here in the room, this is an awfully complex process to me. It just seems, just with all the different property ownerships and stuff,
it's messy.
It's messy. It's very messy.
Well, I wonder if some of that can be cleaned up. I mean, that wouldn't even be off the table, right?
I'd be supportive of that.
Yeah.
Because we're horse trading property with the city.
Yeah, this could be
On the other side of the school right now.
Yeah.
I mean, do you know that the youth center splits down the middle and the city owns half of our youth center?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, it's so weird.
I don't know if we thought they owned more than half. I thought it was like 3/4.
Well,
But it might be a chance to clean some of that up for everybody's sake, just for clarity of.
Well, it frees up our use of the property. I mean, we can't really use it how our master plan would show if we don't have title to the things we want to improve.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. And I do like the idea of a clash representative. I think that actually is.
Yeah.
You might just ask them what they would.
Talk to Jeff and see if Chris has time for this, or maybe I think Jeff knows the situation probably well, or Jeremy might be good. Jeremy's not local, so that might make it tougher, but yeah. There's expertise for us to rely on.
so I think,
I'm just sorry, a process, but so if they say that they can do it and it'll cost us another $3 or $4 grand or whatever, they can just add that as an addendum to
I think they could, yeah.
contract that we would approve.
Yeah.
Or is that within your authority?
I think if it was only that amount, which I guess I don't know why it wouldn't be, maybe a little more than that, just over the course of like a 6-month process, then yeah. Okay. But I'll bring whatever they share back to the board.
Okay.
and you can discuss.
So I think next step is draft a letter of intent, we'll say, to the school district.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you want to help drawing that up, you're better wordsmithing than I, but.
You want me to take first crack at it and then?
Well, yeah.
Okay, if you can send me,
Yep.
I wasn't taking probably as good notes, I have it recorded, but if you want to send me those
Yep.
3 or 4 things that I felt like were crucial.
Yeah.
Some of you or both, yeah, and then I'll draft something and, we can do it. I would love to have a meeting.
Done.
Have a meeting with, the staff leads from, school district and the city on Wednesday or Thursday of next week.
And then, do you want a motion for, I mean, I don't know that we need a motion, but Mike and Celeste to join whatever group?
That's up to you. I think it's best practice because it's a board
Designation,
designee.
Okay.
Yeah, that may.
Anybody?
I move that Celeste and Michael be representatives of the board on the school district Broadway Field project. That's it.
Yeah, I think that's good. All right, do we have a second?
I will second. Did Mike hear that?
Mike, did you hear that?
I heard it.
Perfect. All right, all in favor, signify aye, opposed nay. Kyle?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Celeste?
Abstain?
Mike? You can vote for yourself.
I can vote for myself?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, aye.
Aye.
All right, aye, motion carries. Yeah, you can
I
absolutely
can
vote for yourself.
myself?
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
You're welcome.
I guess I should know that.
Can you see that screen, Mike?
I can see, the deck coming up on screen, yes. I'm sorry Skylar isn't gonna make it to his basketball game.
It was just
It was
practice.
over.
Just practice. Okay, so I just wanted to share, obviously we were shut down for a couple of weeks and Levi, our maintenance, our director of maintenance and facilities, as well as Courtney, the maintenance coordinator, and the other team of maintenance folks provided some information to you that I shared. These pictures are the same ones, but I just wanted to share them for visibility as well as the memo that he drafted. Really just proud of the work that the team conducted, partly because it's been a while since we had, I think, this successful of a shutdown. Typically, something goes wrong and breaks during the process of repairs, or something happens, and we've had delayed shutdowns. I think mostly not due to any fault of our own, but just like we try to reopen and the boiler won't fire, or the paint hasn't dried, or we have problems with insulation, or we don't get the parts. So lots of different kinds of things. So just happy for the work that was conducted. Share a few pictures. This is the men's locker room. You see the old style textured paint that we had in the locker room. It was a brown. We thought this would be great when we initially installed it because it wouldn't show all of the results of 100 people showering every day, even though we do clean the locker rooms each night. But what we found in time, that it just wasn't as visually appealing and didn't meet some of the aesthetic that we wanted. So removed that paint through some labor and installed or painted it with similar products, but just a much lighter color, so much brighter in there. It's a big project. You'll see in this picture, you can see we have partitions in the men's locker room over by the toilets. So remove those partitions and install new partitions that are really nice. Something we did in the women's locker room about 4 or 5 years ago, but didn't ever get to the men's locker room. We often prioritize the women's locker room over the men's locker room. We did install, well, if you want to check the square footage, yeah. We did install our 2 new aquatic features, which we had ordered during COVID in
Last year.
probably, the summer of 2021. And have been What's that?
Wasn't it part of a grant?
Yes, it was part of a grant to offer expanded programs to our summer camp. And it still fits. We didn't break any rules, but we had these two apparatus sitting in the SRC in a classroom. We are waiting for permission from the Oregon Health Authority to install them because this feature, the AquaZip, is actually, from what I've been told, the first AquaZip in a public pool in the whole state. And so the Oregon Health Authority was not really sure how to make sure that it was compliant and safe, and they're responsible for sort of regulating that industry. But those two features have been installed.
So have we actually had young people use that? Kids use?
Partly because we haven't had an open swim since we reopened, but also partly because our lifeguards have not had time to train how to manage, like having this apparatus or this thing open at the same time as the climbing wall, at the same time as where the other kids, and we like to kind of ease some of those folks into that training environment. So we are going to have an open swim on Friday after Thanksgiving, and the goal is to open both of the apparatus at least for a short time and give the lifeguards some time to train with them. Probably not have them open the whole time, but that will kind of help us figure out, okay, these are the ropes that we need to order, this is where lifeguards need to stand, this is how we're going to exit people after they, fall off the zip, this is the way they're going to go, and this is how we're going to make sure that they go. And it's almost like we're going to need a lifeguard just for this feature because there's so much going on with, But it's super cool.
So you're gonna do training on Friday?
We are going to do some training, and we'll open the feature, I think, for a short time for the purpose of training.
Okay.
Yeah. And then once we kind of figure out the plan and have more open swims, it'll be a regular feature.
Because what I know is that I've been in there, my first reaction when I saw it was over in the other pool, looking at that the wall, was like, oh my gosh, you actually, and see, it's an optical illusion for me, because it doesn't hit those things that hang down, but it looked like it.
Oh, these?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but what it does, we have to sort of address is right here, there's a pole and a flag line, for back swimmers so they can see.
Right.
So we'll have to remove that flag line whenever the climbing wall is open. So there's just a few kind of little logistical details that will.
These are great things though to promote, like to
Oh,
let the
no.
community
Oh,
know,
yeah.
right? Like
Let
I
Melissa know about this.
Well, it's
Yes.
just, that's sort of the idea.
Well, and hopefully one at a time, because they're all big news,
This should be
especially
on
the
the
zip
front
line.
page of the paper,
Super cool.
first time it's been installed in a public pool, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
It's totally
I had a question on those last pictures.
Sure. Go ahead, Mike.
And, I had looked at some of those pictures that you sent out earlier. I was wondering on the zip line, particularly visibly, there were these vertical studs where it was bolted to the pool deck. And I noticed there were a couple of them that seemed to be right behind the pad, the launching pad, I take it. Are those deemed safe? Are those vertical obstructions going to injure anybody?
Yeah.
Fall on them?
Great question, Mike. So some of these pictures were taken during the construction process. So the bolts are probably a little exposed right now, but I think they've been secured in the way that they need to be so that they are safe. Yeah. These are maintenance team pictures.
Okay.
I asked them to get some shots so we could report back.
So many people in there and look at it.
Yeah.
It looks really solid.
Thanks.
So the swimmer would stand on the black pad, grab a hold of the rope and zip out over
Correct.
into the second lane or so?
Yeah, to about where the lane line
Does
is.
that overhead extension telescope out farther than it is right now?
This?
Yeah.
No, that's the extent.
That's the extent, okay.
Yeah.
The nice part of this versus the rope swing is you can't swing back.
Right.
So the rope swing, we frequently have children, my own included, being yelled at for holding onto the rope and swinging back over the concrete. So this, once you're out there, you either drop or you hang on.
The options are pretty limited at that point.
So in addition to kind of the fun stuff, there's a number of other really cool projects well, not cool maybe, but, important projects and cleaning that were undertaken, and this is, well, just not a fun project to power wash with a power scrubber, an entire basketball court, but you can see how effective it is. In addition, this is our, one of our maintenance leaders, Mark. He also pressure washed the entire exterior of the youth center, the pool, sidewalks, you know, all that kind of stuff. So deep cleaning process. So I was really happy with the results. Being closed for 2 weeks, we had kind of a skeleton crew. We don't have, you know, 20 lifeguards that are not students right now that are able to contribute, but some of them were around. But for the most part, it was a small but mighty team that got the work done. So hopefully we are on track for, you know, really awesome.
I feel like one of the, you know, beyond the nice flashy parts of adding those cool features, but I think one of the biggest things is getting the hot tub back up and running.
Yes.
Have we had any feedback from people?
I have had feedback from some folks. I was actually in the pool swimming last week and talked to some folks. They were really happy that the hot tub was open, the jets were on. I sat in the hot tub for a few minutes just to, you know, bask in the glory of having jets. And, you know, as is the case, a lot of people, you know, you don't tend to complain or say something when everything's going well. You tend to say something when it's not. But, yeah, that was a big project also. And we're, you know, kind of crossing our fingers, making sure the jets stay on and the hot tub's warm and everything's going good right now.
Well, the people in the classes for, you know, were, oh, we could go back. I mean, because there was some, you could sit in the water, it was warm most recently, but the jets didn't work. And now it's like, oh, you know, there's just a little bit, oh, yeah.
After Sue's class, maybe the first week that we were open, I think I saw about 15 people in the hot tub, and I thought that that's probably a code violation of some sort. They were like literally sitting on top of each other.
You know, that hot tub was originally constructed, what, in the 70s?
2002. So that was
2002.
That was when the lap pool, or when the warm water therapy pool was constructed at the same time.
2002. Yeah. Was there one there before that? No?
I don't think so. Yeah, I think the building kind of just ended at the end of the last pool.
It's 20 years, and I was just wondering, like, do we, I don't, you know, and I would imagine your crew does this, but what is the life? Like, at what point do we look at, like, a major replacement?
If you ask Levi, he would say we're ready for that replacement to occur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do we know, or do we track, do we have ballpark estimates of what that costs? And do
I think he probably does. I think he would, we've had some casual conversations about it. I think he would recommend that we go to a completely different style of hot tub.
Yeah.
One that's operates much more efficiently. And I think the one that we have, it fits the aesthetic of the natatorium, but it's not efficient to operate. And it's on a completely separate operating system from the warm water pool and the lap pool. And the maintenance or the mechanical room is out of the natatorium, through the fitness room, through another door. So just,
I gotta say, there was a conversation I had with a person in the public. I said, you know, perhaps with all the trouble we've had, we should just shut that down. And then he went, oh, well, tell me how you really feel. I said, I didn't say never have a hot tub.
Yeah.
It's just this one that's caused so much trouble.
Sure.
Maybe it's at the end of its life, and we need to look at doing something different.
Sure.
Well, I think it might be nice. I mean, I just don't have any knowledge in the area of facility, you know, life of facilities like this.
I feel like that's part of the strategic plan.
Yeah, but and as a board, I think it might be helpful to have, like, what are, like, how do we, even like Broadway Field would fall into this. Like, I had no idea that turf lasts 10 years, right? Like, so how, is there a master list going, or could we get, and again, I don't want to go deep in, but how could we get like an overview of like major facilities projects and where we are in their lifespan?
Sure.
I think it would be interesting to know.
So that's something ideally I think we would be providing to you more regularly, and we would have a better accounting for. I'm hoping that this master plan process will kick off a much better, more significant effort and coordination on our part to do that, because there are these pieces that we know in our heads, or different managers, different full-time staff, the directors might have ideas of, but hasn't been well coordinated for a few years.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I know for me, with being part of a little bit on the outskirts of a conversation regarding the group of people that got together looking at the swim team equipment. And of course, part of that has already been installed. But there was thought of, eventually we'll be storing the equipment where the gym is, because the gym will move over to SRC in some capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember thinking, well, maybe this piece of equipment, this hot tub that's so broken and too small, because I saw 15 people flock, and I went, I'm not going in there, right now. But I thought, well, maybe since the motor, the engine, whatever, the engine room, whatever you want to call it, is there, maybe part of that area of the gym becomes storage and part becomes some form of a hot tub that's bigger and more up to date.
Yeah.
And I think people would be really happy with that.
I think this is where, in thinking about a strategic plan, I'd also like to see our grant writing efforts. We've been highly successful in our grant writing, but I'd like to see our grant writing efforts feed or be fed by the strategic plan, right? So not just going after a shiny object, but that if we know that we need these, what are our priority areas, and that we try to grant fund those. And I think it's hard to do when you just have piecemeal priorities, right? And you don't kind of know. Yeah.
So this is a really capital intensive business.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'm trying to think how I would do it. Well, if you buy a HVAC system for the roof of the building and it costs, $50,000, I don't even know what they cost, but if they last 25 years, you would put that into your maintenance budget and know that we have to set aside, $2,000 a year to replace it at the end of however many years it's good for, and then attach an inflation factor onto that. And it should be pretty close. So when we redo this bill, we should know today what it's going to cost us in 15 years when we need to replace it again. We can. Well, I guess it would depend on how the board wants to finance these projects.
Right.
If we go out to bond, then we pay for it one way. But if we got to set money aside to replace an HVAC unit, a ball field, a boiler for a swimming pool, or a whole pool.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, we should know what the big ticket items are, and they should be part of the long-term plan.
I think that's really important, because it's also going to be much more appealing to a foundation if you can go and say, we want to replace our whole pool and it's going to cost us $500,000, and by the way, we've already saved up 2/3 of it, right? They like to see the community that we put in effort. That's appealing to them, that they can come in and be the hero that gets the project across the finish line, but they don't have to put up the whole thing. And so I think that would be really smart. And I think it can be formulaic, sort of, right?
Yeah, it's just formula. When you buy something, you put it in the asset list, and then that automatically, Darren, by the end of the night, could probably have a spreadsheet that does all that. No, I mean, really, you plug today's price in, and you plug the lifespan, and then it calculates everything you gotta put away in the budget for when it needs to be replaced.
Well, and just keep in mind, whatever happened, and I was on the outskirts of that, with the last bond measure that failed, regarding the, increasing the space and the function, and it was a nice idea, but I know we were trying to, it seemed like we were supporting 2 other big ticket items, and then here came this thing. And I remember I didn't have enough information, and I didn't have time to go to meetings. And so I remember, so I think the point being that we have to look at how we present this as well.
Yeah.
Last thing, it's not mentioned on here, and I didn't have a picture, but it's very visible that we were able to mount the scoreboard timing system that we've purchased with support from the Seaside High School swim team, the Boosters Club. So, and the high school swim team is hosting their first swim meet in another couple of weeks.
Oh.
I was talking to the swim coach today, and he said, "Doesn't that thing just look like it was always there?" So happy that we kind of found a solution for that, and we're able to tackle that during shutdown as well.
That's great.
If you are around and would like to see more of what was accomplished, or if you want to share your kudos to Levi, Courtney, the rest of the facility team, I think that would go a long way. Some of those are often underappreciated positions, just in terms, because a lot of the work that they do is behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And physical labor. That's it for that. Shall I keep rolling?
Yep, you're the rest.
So I want to share just a few items in my report. This will be perhaps the last month of this set of district goals. You can see, and I think, again, it's become redundant because I update you on these things, but then these are the same things that we're continually talking about and keeping informed, good communication about. So happy that for the most part, the majority of the work in these areas has been either completed or is near completion. Happy about the IGA. I think it's going to move quickly now, even though it's still, not done or not near done. But at least we have some ending on the horizon of when it will be completed. So unless there's questions about that or comments, I'll move on. But I would share, it's mentioned down under events upcoming, but I would love the board to start considering their goals or priorities that they will hope to share with, as a group and with me in the January meeting. I think it will be great to get a sense of those if you want to talk about it beforehand, or if you want to flesh some of those out with me. I'd really welcome those conversations, because I think, again, this has been really important for me to just give them some focus and make sure that the board knows these are the things that Skylar is working on pretty actively. Can't probably do everything that we want to do in one piece, but I can hopefully get a few things done over the course of the year.
I think this was a really great tool that we added for the conversations between us, and just keeping knowing where we're going, and that was great.
The only question I would have is, are each one of these I don't know if they're programs, policies, goals, objectives, whatever.
Yeah.
Are they all equally weighted in terms of importance?
I don't think we ever really had that.
We started without having, so part of the idea of this is that we didn't actually, when it came to doing a performance review for our staff, we didn't really have a set of guidelines of what we were measuring, and so the idea is aside from sort of, some general things like communication with board and some regular type things, the idea was just that to have some progress markers that we could then measure.
I think it's awesome.
Yeah, so we didn't get to that. This was our first run.
I'm just trying to figure out which one I should be looking at.
Yeah, this was a list. We didn't weigh them, and it was the first time at trying to have something that we could at the end of the year say,
It's a good tool.
Well, and it's well written out here in these 2 pages.
But we could certainly look at, and I'd also be interested in Skylar's feedback, if there's a way to, was this too many things to be tracking? Should it be weighted, as Kyle's saying? Would that be helpful to you?
Yeah, I can think a little bit about that. I think it was around the right number. I felt comfortable with it. I'm not sure if I would want a lot more. Maybe a couple more would be fine. Having it weighted would be fine, but to be honest, I really gave it each of the goals like my best. I mean, I have to manage my time, and I recognize that there's certain things, like there was an effort to open up youth programs right by September or October, and there was a lot of allocation of time to comply with that timeline. Whereas with Broadway Field, I didn't really feel like I could do much for most of the year. So
I don't think I ever felt during the year when you were giving us updates on this where I was like, oh man, I really wish Skylar had spent more time on this other thing over there. I really felt like you managed your time well and made all, and there was progress on every, like, continuing progress. Nothing was just left out.
I would second that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think the idea of even having a list like this, like, we know you have lots of other duties on,
Right.
on the day-to-day, except I think the idea
Here's
here
just
was
the
to.
iceberg items.
Yeah, and it's just like this would be great, and we're behind you, and this gives you hopefully some, something to even talk to staff about what's important to the board.
But I think also the board is able, like I am, to say, these are the things that we accomplished as a group. I mean, and
Yeah.
you could use them in your messaging out to your constituents, and if you're deciding to run for re-election, these are the things that the board is accomplishing right now, and they're tangible and they're real. And they wouldn't, I honestly know that they wouldn't be happening without support from the board, you know, and asking the right questions and helping provide staff with, you know, resources and support and moving the needle forward. So anyways, it's a group effort. Moving on, really excited about our Thanksgiving events. Things are coming together nicely. A few months ago, Melissa and I were talking about Turkey Trot and how we could maybe improve it, and I know she's worked really well with Justin on this too, but made the decision to change the start and finish line to be at the SRC, and that was really intentional to get more people in the building to see what we're doing, but also we, you know, I thought we could create a really cool route from there, so we did that. We worked the route so we get to run right down Broadway at 9 a.m., you know, when the city will be pretty quiet, I think. We're going to spend a mile or so on the prom, and then finish at 12th and Prom, turn right, Holiday, back to Broadway, and finish at the SRC, and that's a really tight 3.1 plus tiny bit loop for our 5K. So right now we had, at least as of today, we had around 160 people registered, which is great, and I would anticipate we'll at least get 50 to 100 on day of. We're closing registration, online registration at 11:59 p.m. tonight, just because we got to assemble the bags for folks. But really excited about just showing off the facility. We're going to walk people down and kind of stage in the cafeteria, encourage people to leave their not running items there if they want, and then we'll use the access road and start and finish actually right at that gate, a temporary gate that was installed. So if you'd like to, I know, I'm guessing CERT is involved.
The hand group is actually involved, and so I'll be there, but I want to commend you because perhaps you don't realize there's a King Tide event right in the midst of this, and we're keeping people further back from the ocean.
Yeah.
So
And
it's
here we are
a
running right
safety
towards
issue.
it.
You'll be safe on the phone.
I'll be at Broadway and Columbia.
I'm hoping the prom will be a safe distance. And it looks like we were joking today that really glad Thanksgiving wasn't today because the weather was not great for a little while, but Thursday looks like it's going to be nice and pleasant for a fall day.
But it's still a King Tide.
Yeah. Later that day, we're hosting the community Thanksgiving meal.
One in January.
And so excited for that, noon to 2, and doing in-person dining and to-go meals. And this is the first.
And what time are you starting that? Because I'll come after.
Starting prep at 10 a.m.
Okay.
First time that we've been able to translate one of our flyers into to Spanish, and I think it's cool. One of our goals, as Darren mentioned, is to do that more frequently and even developing or allocating some resources next year to make sure there's funding for that.
Now I want to, because I'll be there, so we're feeding people from 10 to 2, or excuse me, from 12 to 2, and then cleanup goes till.
Whenever it gets done, it usually takes an hour to an hour and a half, depending on how many folks we have. Yeah.
Right.
Some other just upcoming things, obviously, hopefully you remember, but we canceled our board meeting for December, so our January board meeting, I don't have the date on there, but again, just a reminder to think about some goals. Special Districts Association of Oregon Conference will be February 9th through 12th in Sun River. I know registration will open in December, so if you are interested, I think the 9th is a Thursday, and that's the pre-conference day. Actual conference is the 10th through the 12th. unless you want to go to one of the pre-conference sessions, which there's always a session about board member training, duties, liabilities, that kind of thing. So please let me know if you'd like to participate. I don't know if there will be a virtual option. I know they're hoping to just be in person unless there's stuff happening. And I know Sun River's a long way and it's over the mountains and through the woods, but once you get there, at least it's a pretty nice site to have a conference because it's just, yeah, pretty in the yeah, go ahead.
Can you send out a conference brochure so we can
I will,
see
yeah, as
what,
soon as I can.
what they're offering?
Yep.
It looks like our board meeting is the 24th of January.
Okay, thank you. Two other items, I'll do D actually before C. So we have a holiday employee party, just kind of a way to recognize staff this time of year. And traditionally we've invited the board, and we'd like to invite you again if you'd like to participate. It's family friendly. We'll have you know, a very inexpensive white elephant gift exchange, serve some dinner, recognize staff that have been given Employee of the Month awards, and do some other kind of prize giveaways and things like that. I think there's also cookie or something, gingerbread, something
Gingerbread house building, something like that.
crafty.
Mm-hmm.
You
What
are
time?
disqualified.
6 p.m.
6 p.m.
So is it like down at Sultano's again?
No, it's actually here in the Bob Chisholm. Yeah. So we typically alternate every other year. We'll have just kind of a Bob Chisholm party, and then on the off years we'll maybe go off site and do a party at the bowling alley or something like that.
Do you need help with that?
Yeah, I was wondering if there's a role that the board could play.
I think that would be awesome. Maybe helping prepare or serve dinner. I can get you more information, but if you want to put that date on your calendar, if you're free, I
That
know
would be awesome.
December is a busy month for us.
I'll serve the employees.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to share, just kind of a little shine for, I think, our staff and for the district, but I had heard at a conference with some out-of-state colleagues about things that they were doing to incentivize their employees to vote, participate in voting, because, yeah, sorry, you guys know this, but I'll just share it for the good of the order, that voter participation is not great, especially amongst young people, and we have a lot of young people that work for us. And so some of those colleagues, they close down their facilities or give their employees the day off that day so that they will encourage them to go vote. Those are places where they have to do in-person voting. So what we decided to do is create something similar. We offered any staff that completed the voting process, and they certified it by sending us a picture of their sealed envelope. They would receive a small allotment into their vacation balance, and we had it was probably about 60% of our employees do that, and I was really pleased with that. Never done anything like that before, and I know it's a small thing, but I think encouraging that amongst our employees was really important. We had some really good conversations at staff training about why we're doing it. We had a contest for people to submit pictures of them dressed up in, patriotic garb or something along those lines of them with their envelope or them submitting their ballot, and we picked the winner from that group. So grateful that we have the flexibility to offer something like that, and for our staff for responding in the way that they did. And I think we'll look to continue that again in future elections. That's it for my report.
Particularly in, May.
Yes. Yay. I'll be out on the corner.
We can
saying.
increase the election budget.
We need it up a little bit. Do we need to see who you're voting for?
Yeah.
Well, I'll be out on my corner.
Okay, anything else, or we're moving on to board comment? Moving on to board comment. Kyle?
Well, first I'd like to say thanks to Dr. Ousley and Melissa. Last month after she contacted me, got me all set up with getting my name on the website and doing all that stuff. It's just very professional.
Did you see the newsletter?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Kyle got a little shine on our,
Yeah.
and it was great, and we all learned some stuff about you, and yeah.
And then Skylar and Catherine, I was on the Cook's tour. You showed me around. That was pretty awesome. And what was really awesome, I mean, the facilities are coming along. I know there's work to do, but the employees were awesome. The gals in the toddler and newborn room, what a job that would be. I'm glad there are people out there that want to do that, because that would be hard and difficult. But, you know, your lifeguards, everybody that I bumped into is awesome. And Darren did a great presentation. I really appreciate your volunteer efforts and what you're doing in the community. Thanks for that. And then, if you need some shout out for Levi, Courtney, and the maintenance team, from what I can tell, the state of maintenance and repair is really good. So,
Before I move on, I had a thought. The electronic newsletter that goes out, can we add our board emails to that list? Because it goes to my personal name, it gets buried.
Oh, you mean, okay, so you want it to go to your...
Well, I just think it should go, we should all be on that list.
Yeah.
Which means I just need to talk to Darren about how to make sure I'm on that, because I don't want to respond to personal. I just look at the personal email but don't respond.
But I mean, it's an electronic newsletter that I think should get sent to. And does it go to staff?
If they opt in, but yes, we could add.
I think
we could
it's
add
just,
staff.
I mean, when I send out the school newsletter, it goes, everybody gets it. Yeah. Anyway, okay.
I like it. Thank you.
So I mean, I just, at this time of Thanksgiving, just appreciating the team effort of this board, that the work of the dynamic work that we have going on, and the team effort that comes through, not just with the senior staff, but the lifeguards, the people that work in every capacity as part of a team. And I appreciate Darren's report tonight, and I'm always grateful for the friendliness that I receive when I come in here Monday through Friday. If I run into somebody, it's never, oh, there's Sue. And I mean, even though I'm sure sometimes it's like, oh no, there's Sue. So anyway, I'm very grateful, and because I'm always watching, I feel like in some respects I'm approachable, so people can give their input, and I pass it right on up the line, and I'm grateful for that opportunity, because I do always believe that every complaint is a gift, and if we shut the communication lines down, we silo ourselves, and then that damages our perspective to be of service to our community members. And I always remember that we are here to play, that PLAY. I want to promote as many people involved in whatever capacity. I'm so excited for the Thursday events to be involved with the turkey trot and the, feeding whoever needs a meal, and the work that goes on. I'm so grateful that that is a service that we offer to our community. And I am grateful to Levi and Courtney. I know I'll ask multiple little questions, and I'll bring up, over, and Courtney the other day just came along and took a look at something, and I got it. And I'm just grateful that instead of being ignored or eye rolling, it's like, how can I fix this to make it better? I am grateful for that. And so I'm, happy Thanksgiving, and I'm glad to be part of this board.
Thank you.
You want to go ahead? No? Okay. All right, so let's see. Just shout out to Darren. Thank you for the great presentation, and love learning a little bit more about Sasquatch each year. It's awesome.
Well, there's a lot more.
So that's enough. I like learning a little about Sasquatch here.
Got it. We have no idea.
And I'd like to echo the shout out to your maintenance team and the great work that they did during the shutdown, but the work that they do all year. And finally, I'm really optimistic about the opportunity that we're finally to a place where we can have more serious IGA conversations and get that settled. I'm really excited about the strategic plan and how that's going to come together. You know, I think we've had some really invigoration points, at least in my time on this board. There's been some excitement going on, and I think it's cool that we have even more to look forward to. So excited about that, and thank you all for the support in being able to participate in those teams.
Thanks, Celeste. Mike?
Okay, I'm sorry. What happened? I really appreciated being able to go to the oral TA conference, and I thank the district for that experience. It's always great to meet people you've worked with and networked with over the years. Went to some really good breakouts. One of the ones, the most significant perhaps, would be the equity and inclusion breakout, and it brought to mind and inquired to Skylar about how our district was doing with implementing our policy. A lot of interesting information floating around. I do recommend that the board look into system development fees in the future. We have bypassed that in the past, and I ran into Donna Clements, who I kind of consider a mentor with regard to that in particular. He is the executive director of the Chehalis Recreation District. But I think it might be a good time to revisit system development fees. It would strengthen our financial position in the long run. It might enable us to capitalize some projects, perhaps cooperatively with the city or the school district. Again, it was just a great conference. Really interesting breakouts. Thank you again.
Thanks, Mike. I'll just reiterate everybody else. Thank you, Darren, for all you've done this year and what we look forward to next year. You did a great presentation. Thank you to the maintenance crew, and not just the maintenance. I mean, I know everybody was out there working, making things happen during the shutdown. So I think our buildings and our facilities look great. And I look forward to the progress that we can make in developing the heart of Seaside with the IGA, and I think it's going to make a pretty fantastic facility once we get there. And super excited about the strategic planning process. I think being able to identify what we want this place to look like in 5, 10, 15 years is going to be pretty amazing. So thank you everyone for your time tonight, and happy Thanksgiving, and meeting adjourned.